Have you guys had Carl? If you survived Carl from Earth Crisis and Scott from Terror, and because they know not like they're true hardcore cavemen, like this was hard enough for me. I had to have a tech.
We did Carl in person.
Okay.
And he really warmed us up to us about halfway through. He realized we knew what we were talking about.
We know.
And then he said I was in the apocalypse bunker. I don't know.
Oh, good. Yeah, because he's who you want to be when the shit goes down, which might be soon.
The Road Warrior vehicle is coming to pick me up. I'm gonna see if Bo will fit.
Hey, I'm right along the way.
You're right there.
I'm right off.
Now let me ask you, because I didn't have time. I only got to listen like the first 10 minutes of the bands who put out albums that were kind of like considered bad albums, not by you, but like by the fan bases or whatever.
Yeah.
Did you bring up Slither? Because I back Slither.
Yeah, we did. That's a prime example of like a record you're not supposed to like. That's like, oh, I listened to everything before this. It's a
prime example of something that we dove into about halfway through the episode, Bo, of a saying.
All right, so I'm excited to go listen to the rest.
Yeah,
couple tracks.
It's couple tracks.
The lore of the expression "couple tracks" is
You'll
explained.
Well, because I think if any of those records that you guys talked about, and I'll go and listen to the rest of it. Were any of them later Life of Agony records?
Yeah.
Ugly and Soul Searching Sun. I ride for both.
Oh, I was gonna say Broken Valley.
Broken Valley's got a couple tracks.
See?
Well, I think Broken Valley was it was a major label return.
Yeah.
And they just either could have called it something else, because it was Newman from Sheer Terror that signed them for that, or re-signed them or whatever. So to me, and then when they pitched it to Headbangers Ball and I got the advance, I was like, if this was just called another band, this could probably be big for what's big at this time. But because they were already connected, if you're connected to the scene that's not accepted by the radio and by the higher ups at MTV, you got to have that deal to get pushed to the front. And I'm not saying it's necessarily like a 360 deal, but there's bands that were, even back then, they were in 360 deals that got the hardest push, because those companies stand to make the most money. Whether
even now, there's a certain amount of money they can allocate, and something has to kind of organically pop for them to be like, okay, this is where we're gonna put all our eggs in this basket, and the other some other stuff may suffer even on the same label. Sad.
Yeah, and they can upstream things, right? And that was, I think maybe they thought at that time, and I don't know, you guys should probably try to get Newman on the show, or get Joey from Life of Agony, or get Mina on. But I think at that time, it was just the wrong style, because the Headbangers was coming back. If they had come out with super hard fucking River Runs Red style or harder, it would have popped off. It would have been game over. But because it was so STP meets whatever the radio rock at the time.
I see. Okay, I didn't realize
there's another thing that we preach on here all the time is evolve, don't change. If it feels like the natural next step, maybe that's where you should go. But the River Runs Red Ugly jump, even that was kind of a stark change in like the tone of the vocals. It's significantly less hard. They were changing with the times rather than changing with like what the people's expectations were.
And that was a serious dollar bin. Like that was back in the dollar bin days. I could tell you many dollar bin pickups, and I still got it. I still picked it up, but there was a lot of those records that you would go up to the counter and the kid behind the counter would be like, "Don't do it, bro." And it was,
wow.
It was that type of thing. And especially in the cassette days, because the dollar bin in the cassette world was a big deal, where you would think that it was always too good to be true. You would think you were about to score. Like, oh man, I'm going to get this Celtic Frost record for $1.
And it was Cold Lake.
Yeah. Or you would get like the promo that looked a little different, but it was, how they used to sell the promos?
Yeah.
Of course.
they would get given for free. There was a lot of those records, but that one in particular, the one after River Runs Red, that was there was a couple tracks, but I like Soul Searching Sun. I thought that was a better
Weeds
record.
is an incredible song. But let's give the proper intro that Jamey deserves here.
We can go back.
Don't let me forget. I got to tell you about When No Warning came up to MTV.
Absolutely.
Because I heard that part. I listened to that part where you guys were talking about that record.
We're gonna get to that part of your life. We're gonna do a chronological journey here. I'm excited. Hello, welcome. It's HardLore time. Bo, how are you?
Do you miss me yet?
I do miss you.
Okay, good. I saw
I'll
you.
see you in 2 days. But more importantly, most importantly, we have an unbelievable guest today. The Godfather of Spinkick anthems, the Podfather of extreme music podcasting.
Wow.
A man who paved the way for HardLore in so many ways.
Wow.
Musically, personally, otherlies. Jamey Jasta, welcome, sir.
Thanks for having me. Two very high praise coming from two very accomplished individuals.
Wow. I'm gonna tell my mom you said I'm accomplished.
Mom!
Yeah, she's gonna love it. This was so easy to put notes together for because these are I just have so many things that I want to know.
I full disclosure was watching just random Hatebreed sets on YouTube last night and was just like, I wonder where this, and then it was like, well,
I could just ask him.
I'll just ask him. Yeah.
I want to take this journey chronologically with you, Jamey. I want to find out how James Shanahan became Jamey Jasta as a boy from Connecticut. You know, are you 860 or the other one?
I'm 203.
203. See, we got both. We're pure Connecticut representation happening here.
Two sides of the same
There's
coin.
just two, right? They never came up with a third for like New London or something.
Yeah, that I know of. No, it's just the two. 1995.
Yeah.
Hatebreed demo cassette. Not One Truth. Severed Puritan. Is that like those three songs being the identity of a band right out of the gate? I can't imagine, frankly. And then
are you I like the demo better guy?
Fuck no.
Fuck that. I hate that.
But Dave's snare sound was good on the demo. Like that, he had kind of like a little Saint Anger going before Saint Anger, and that demo did make it to high places.
I mean, it had to have, considering what happened. But I'm a Jamey Muckenhopped diehard.
As diehard as they come.
He's my Mount Rushmore, straight up. It's like I've said this before many times. Jamey Muckenhopped, Mickey D, Danny Schuler. Who was my fourth one? Sal Abruscott.
Oh, Deluxe. Forget about it. Yeah, he's up there. Deluxe.
That's who made me.
Well,
you know,
Muckenhopped, he really, with that cheater beat, or as some would call it. I call it like the thrash beat, but people will call it the D beat. We just call it the cheater beat. There's a lot of different terms for it, but it's not like the Lukey Luke beat because the Lukey Luke played for Hatebreed for us for like half a minute.
Wow.
And that was our claim to fame at first. We were like, we got the dude from Youth Today, Judge. Because he came on in Texas, but he was like, yo, I'm listening. He would listen to the tracks and he'd be like, yo, I'm listening. And this is like, it's different on this demo than it is this. And I said, well, it's a different beat, right? It's like I don't know what you guys or the fans of your show call it. I like to just call it the D beat, but there's a lot of different, or the hardcore beat, fast hardcore beat. Like where it's staggered.
What's a song? What's a Hatebreed song with it?
The hi-hat follows the foot rather than just constant.
Yeah, that's the deep.
Whereas Muckenhopp kind of like popularized the other way.
Yeah. Got it.
So he was playing pretty fast.
He should get more credit than he does. Just the reach of that album alone, I think. Yeah. But Deluxe definitely, and Lombardo too, but they would go back and forth from like the rolling kicks or what do you call that? Like when it goes to the halftime or
Just
the double time.
kick. Yeah, double time. Yeah. Those, I mean, that DNA is in everything now.
Mm-hmm.
Those three guys, especially of my ilk, spin kicking music, it's finally crafted by those three drummers. But
But Dave laid it down for the demo. Shout out to Dave Russo. I mean that style and that we were trying to get that tone more of like Entombed and Bolt Thrower, but also we liked Integrity and Madball and Marauder and All Out War. Like All Out War always had a good drum tone.
And it's so funny that those are your contemporaries. And you're saying that like on the cover album, most of those bands are on there. They're your influences are your contemporaries. So that's a pretty special thing.
Well, also the cover album has bands like Sheer Terror and Sub-Zero, who also had that kind of 4 on the floor and had some of the breakdown style beats. Sheer Terror especially had that D beat, but because Blake, who was originally in Sheer Terror, he had that big Celtic Frost influence. And if you listen to those drums, I mean, he's up there as well. Why is his name escaping me right now? He's fucking unbelievable. Yeah, I want to say Martin, but I'm fucking it up.
Isn't Martin the guitar player?
No,
Martin
yeah,
Hurricane?
he's the other guy. Yeah,
that's the homie. That's the other homie.
Oh, the homie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The homie.
This is why I need my producer Brian.
Yeah.
Shout out to Brian.
So the guy who's not Martin Hurricane or Tom G. Warrior, that guy is awesome.
Yeah.
So what?
I mean, he's really like the drummer that was, putting it down that style. Because Discharge, think about Venom, Discharge, because Discharge is like the D beat.
That is the D beat.
Yeah, that's
OGs, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The OG.
What was the decision to basically put the same? Were you going to release the demo as a 7-inch, but then just took away a song?
Reed St. Mark. I'm so sorry, Reed.
Reed St. Mark.
I forget. Yeah.
Legend.
Reed St. Mark.
Those same songs. Was that the same recording on the Neglect split?
Yes.
So you, instead of putting out a demo, just re-releasing the demo on a 7-inch, you said, no, fuck that. I'm going to put on for some Long Island shit. I'm going to self-release this split with Neglect.
Well, yeah. And also we love Neglect. Like Dave and I, shout out to Dave once again. We would listen to Neglect was ignorant before it was just commonplace to be ignorant. And just, sang they just had a different, I don't know how they put a lot of the same influences probably together, but they just had a different delivery and it was very unique. It's nice to see that they're getting some resurgence with fans and people find their stuff, because they're another one that it probably would have popped off like a Life of Agony or a Biohazard had they gotten, signed to a Roadrunner. I think that label, I forget the name of that label, but I think they kind of did them a disservice. What was it? We Bite or for whatever. Was that it?
I think so. But
it
now
didn't
you
have
got
the
the
distribution, didn't have the videos to get on Headbangers Ball.
Yeah.
Great production. Very unique.
Very unique.
Yeah. But listen to that Sub-Zero demo where they went kind of industrial. You could hear that snare sound. You can hear that. Because I liked that demo. And that was when people were like, oh, they're jumping on, the Ministry thing or whatever. But there was a lot of bands that were, incorporating samples and having different styles of snares and kicks and just harder, like more just in your face and crunch on the guitar tones, which that people would, because we didn't have terms at the time, they would go, oh, it's kind of more industrial. But really, just because you put in samples, it's more industrial. A lot of bands had samples. It just wasn't during the song. It was like before as an intro or something.
Yeah.
Interesting. What do you remember about doing the demo, about recording the demo? Because like even for my own bands, when I think about doing demos, they're like so brief and like nothing. Like very winging it, very just like, oh yeah, that sounds good. Like, does anything come to mind when you think back about those first 3 songs and like tracking them, putting them together?
It was just throw and go, just very quick. Larry had just even back then, knowing somebody with an amp was like a big deal. Like, because my previous band, Jasta 14, 2 of the kids had good amps. And that was like, that's key. Wow. Like, you got to have gear. Because a lot of times we just show up and borrow people's gear. Because if you had gear to rehearse, like we would rehearse in Bridgeport in Dave's basement, and his mom was nice enough to let us do that. She would be watching like Howard Stern on the E channel upstairs. We would go down, rehearse, and the neighbors must have just fucking thought we were like Satan worshipers and stuff. But before we would rehearse, we would listen to records to get inspired, listen to shit in Dave's room, and try to because there's always a lane that's open in certain eras. And we knew, everybody knew the lane was wide open for the crossover to come back, because the shows had become very not well attended for certain bands and certain styles of bands, but there was a new scene coming up. So we knew we had to get the demo out. We wanted to play a show even before the demo was out. It was like that. Like, it was the changing of the guard was happening, where the Revelation stuff was kind of going below the wayside. Not that there was anything wrong with that stuff, because I liked a lot of that stuff, but those bands were like, okay, what are we going to do?
Yeah.
We got to make a career out of this or call it a day. So they started signing to majors and making the jump, and everybody started jumping ship. Like, I don't like this.
Yeah.
Like, Civ and Burn
Shelter
became Orange Shine Millimeter. And and there's always only ever going to be 1 or 2 that are going to really pop off. And I had been told that by multiple people with my previous band, because I had gone to New York City and tried to shop my previous band and played, we played at the Space at Chase a couple of days after Gigi Allen. And I was in my shorts, wanting to go on stage barefoot like Rollins. And the guy was like, "Put your fucking shoes on. Are you crazy? Do you know who was just here?" And because I was so young, I didn't know. I was like, "Ooh," and they're like, "Gigi Allen's here's shit, blood. There's people with AIDS," and and we're like, "Oh, really? Shit."
Oh, no.
Okay, so I put my shoes back on, did the show, but I had called so many of those labels and called so many of even the indie labels. I had bothered so many people, so I knew that in order to shop a demo, you had to have a good recording. You have to have a good guitar head. You have to have a good drum mix. Because at that time, also, when I had put out the Jasta 14 demo, we pretended like we were a label. So we put the logo, and I went and got a P.O. box. So I started getting sent demos.
Whoa.
And I knew, and I was getting hundreds of demos in the mail, in the snail mail. So I knew what was commercially just garbage compared to what was at the time. I would use quickness, Bad Brains quickness. I would use as it's got to be as close to this, or body count, or even somebody
quickness was the measuring stick to how to pop off.
Well, no, just sound wise.
Mackie drums, big thick guitars.
Yeah, because I knew we weren't going to be able to afford. I mean, we used other records too, obviously. The guy there in Rhode Island who did the Cro-Mags and did Leeway, Jamie Locke. Was it? No, even before him. There was a guy before him. His name's right on the tip of my tongue. People are yelling at their screen right now.
Keep talking.
There's but those were really good. Right. And so when stuff would come out, people would go there to record, and stuff would come out. I would go, "Oh wow, this might even top quickness."
Quickness.
Chris Williamson.
Chris Williamson,
That's on right.
Tom Soares, Jamie Locke. There was a lot of like recordings that would raise the bar sort of each time. And I knew we didn't have the budget for that. But with the demo, I just wanted it to be like even. That was the main thing. Like, let's just have it even where everything, like the snare pops, the guitar pops, you got the little samples, the wind and shit, but it just sounded pro enough for having zero budget.
So even at the conception of the Hatebreed demo, you were planning how to make the biggest impact you could.
Oh, it was always like horse before the cart. Like it was never like, it was always like some, and even I think when we did the joke song, cause there was a joke song out, and Level at the time, shout out to Scott. Level had a demo, and Jasta 14 had gone to this guy Real Sound, shout out to Dan. He had a 4-track, and then he had, I forget what the other thing was called, but it was like you would bounce down from the 4-track. This was all pre. It was a tape machine. I forget what it was called. I want to say ADATs.
Mm-hmm. I think you're right.
But even prior to ADATs, there was something else that we did at this other studio in Connecticut. But that guy, Dan, and then there was a band that we would play with. I'm trying to think where they did their demo, and their demo sounded really good. It was
it's so fascinating to hear this, to just be like, yo,
because we had a show booked. So it was like, you got to have demos to sell at the show.
You had to get it out.
So that was your motivation to recording music, was just having something for the gig?
Because it's hard to describe. There was this, like, I guess back then you could call it a collective consciousness, but you knew shit was about to pop off because it was a changing of the guard. And you would go to shows with these legendary bands. I used to go to every show. So I would go to like Overkill and Prong, and I would be like, oh, these guys, like, this audience is totally different from the audience that was at fucking Into Another. Like, it's a completely different crowd. Yeah. But you would see a couple of the crossover. And you would go, oh, this is a person. Like, this is a dude. Like, or this is a chick. So you go to see Mighty Boss Tones, and you would go, wait, okay. There's moshing. Yeah. There's stage diving, but it's different. And then there's girls at that show. So you give your flyer to those girls at that show, and you holler, and you say, hey, come to this show. Now they come to your show, and they're like, oh man, we're the only 2 girls here. It's a little scary. Sure. But you're building something out. Wow.
The analytics that you're describing right now are all this is all evidence to why Hatebreed is the biggest, statistically the biggest hardcore band of all time.
My band still doesn't think about shit like that.
Yeah, I would never think about
that. You know what was a big eye opener for us was, and rest in peace, this guy Mark Shitty. I don't know if you ever heard stories about Mark Shitty, but
Mark Shitty?
Yeah.
Mr.
Rest in
Shitty.
peace, Mark Shitty.
R.I.P.
Mark Martin. I used to take the Q bus to the record store, and then in New Haven, and I would take the bus to and from school. You take the city bus like everywhere. Mm-hmm. And so I was going into a record store, and he was coming out, and I forget what shirt I was wearing. I think it was Super Touch. And I remembered he was like, dude, nice shirt, whatever. And he had just bought Urban Discipline on tape. And he was like, wait till you hear this. I had a couple of the songs from the Maze record from a friend of mine at school who made me a mixtape, and I had like Sepultura, Benediction, Napalm, Biohazard, Carnivore, some of the Typo stuff. I think it was back then, it was probably like the stuff that made it onto Slow, Deep, and Hard.
Yeah.
But he had said, right on, dude. You know, I said, oh, I want to get that. I want to get that tape. I didn't have enough. I ended up getting Earth AD, and I listened to, and Earth AD actually was in the dollar bin. I remember the kids saying, oh, they're trying to go metal, they're trying to go thrash or whatever. Because depending on who you would talk to, there was always like the gatekeeper thing.
Yeah.
This was big back then. Like the punkers didn't want quickness. They didn't want Earth AD, but I was all about that action.
Yeah.
This is everything we were saying last week on the bad albums one, is that like people now don't understand this divide that there was upon the release of every single one of these things, of like this band's entire fan base basically being like, nope, fuck this and fuck everything they've ever done because it's not exactly the same.
Yeah, and I thought, wow, this is cool that he likes the second Biohazard, because even then there was people like, no, it'll never touch the self-titled or the Maze record or whatever you call it. But so then he goes, oh, we're going to a show, you know, and I was like, all right, right on, I'll see you there. And it was Fugazi. And we started moshing, me, him, and some other people. We didn't know. We thought, oh, it's members of Minor Threat. We don't fucking know. They stop the show. They kick us out.
Wow.
Yeah. And I thought, this is it. Like, there's a whole, like, for every one of these people, there's like thousands of people that need this release. Like, I was like, how could the guy from Minor Threat be too cool for this? And they were just evolving as people. They saw all the violence already with Minor Threat ruining the shows, and and that was happening at that time at even like Biohazard shows and Agnostic Front shows. Like the violence had really put a damper in things. But
I would hear from older Connecticut guys, they'd be like, yo, I didn't even really like Biohazard. I just loved moshing. And it was like so violent that I just had to be a part of it.
Oh, it was sanctioned violence. It was crazy. They played down the street from my house with Typo Negative and Exploited. I rode my bike there and literally walking up, like people are coming out like bloody, fucking shoes off. Like there was so many fights. It was crazy, but that was an important thing. It was a positive release, even though that bands like Fugazi and their fans looked at it as very bad. It was way better than these kids, what they could have been doing. They could have been crawling through your window. They could have been doing, but they were at the show moshing and having this release. So that was always like in my mind, like, okay, yeah, this is, if these people hate it, this means other people are going to love this.
Ooh.
Right.
Yeah, there's such a thing as positive aggression, and there are ways that people can let it out, whether it's like lifting weights or doing fucking, you know, Muay Thai or Jiu-Jitsu or whatever, and sometimes it's spin kicking.
Oh,
and stage diving.
Preach.
You know?
Yeah. How far?
It always gets taken too far too. So you're going to go to extremes. It's like a healthy balance of it. We just had a collective consciousness where you knew this is not welcome here, but that's good. This is fuel for the fire. We can do it somewhere else, and we don't need them and they don't need us, and it's fine.
That's how you felt at the time?
Yeah. And also that's kind of the thinking behind your last episode with, you know, people wanting to make the jump. I never fault the people for trying to make the jump and create a new collective consciousness, but you're really rolling the dice when you don't serve the base that you have.
Some people don't know they're making a jump with these records, though.
Right.
They do. They say they don't. They say they don't, but they do. And before I forget, I wanted to bring that up because when you guys were talking about that No Warning record, I was like deep into, I don't know how far into the conspiratainment stuff you went with Carl, because he was really deep in it then, but I was going deep into it at that time, and having signed to a major label and I had become a Viacom employee.
Yeah, right.
Right.
I knew at some point, it wasn't me, but I knew at some point the shit was going to be co-opted. I was just trying to have a plan B or a plan C, which you never want. I don't recommend that to anybody. You never want that. You want to be all in, especially if you're 17 or whatever, 15 to, I would even say like 29.
Yeah.
Just be all in. But when they came up to MTV with Mike Shinoda, I was like, oof, this is just career suicide.
Wow.
But when I heard the record, I was like, ooh, it's actually good.
It's still hard.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I would joke with Zeus. I would say, hey, if we could mix this, we could just edit this down to like, instead of being 2.5 minutes or 3 minute songs, we could make these like 1 minute bangers and hardcore kids would eat this shit up.
Yeah.
The second you hit the Sum 41 type of chorus or the Linkin Park note hitting, you've lost everybody from your base because they're just not ready for it.
I think that's how even No Warning looks at it as a band now.
Yeah, but not true because I was.
No,
but I thought,
rocks.
Tell me why I was right.
But what
a hook.
like it was so weird. It was so weird to see and hear about this stuff in the industry. Like, oh, we're gonna do the Hatebreed thing. We're gonna sign to a major label, and we're gonna pop off. And I'd be like, but you're changing your sound. How is that gonna work?
The Hatebreed thing.
Yeah, no, that's not how it works.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
so with that scenario, I thought, okay, if this shit is really being co-opted, how are they gonna make this palatable but still have the base?
Room for the OGs. Yeah. I mean, and time showed that it did.
A lot of bands couldn't do it. Poison
Yeah.
the Well. There was a lot.
Most, you know who did it? Hatebreed.
That's who
I would say Thursday.
Yeah.
Thursday. I say AFI
definitely.
Yes. The one, you know, they
because they were like legit. I mean, they're ones that we pulled up to the show and borrowed the gear, and they let us. They were like, wait, what? And then they did, and we were like at a Christian coffee house. Yo, let us play 20 minutes. Our show got canceled. Shout out to Tony No Clubs. He booked the show. I think it was at Tampa or Ybor City. But so AFI, they were another one, even though it was a different scene, they were still in tune with the collective consciousness of their base. So they knew for every, 10 or 20 people that might jump ship, you're going to grab however many more
100.
because you have the reach because you can get your record into the stores.
We just saw them play to 10,000 people.
10,000 people
on that record 2 days ago, and it was fucking.
Oh,
crazy.
no way.
Yeah,
it
we were
was
there.
insane.
And the pop is for that record only, right?
Only.
Like that's the pop off.
Yeah. That was all they played, and it was all people were there for, trust me.
Yeah.
You should do a mix. You should take that song. What's the one we would go, yours is Scratch the Surface. Ours is Scratch the Skin or whatever. You should take that song and just edit the singing parts out and put it out on your podcast. People are like, this is the greatest shit ever.
Of Scratch the Skin. Of
is that's of the
that's the No Warning song. That
I'll do it for the whole album.
It goes
coming soon
so
on HardLore Records. Coming soon.
No, you should do that because that's a lane that's so fucking wide open right now with all these hip hop artists like giving away their libraries and giving away their sounds. And now like even with like Jay from Slipknot, you could get his whole kit on Mixwave.
Yeah.
Oh, I've been using it.
He's got it.
It's dope.
We got
it's
it.
dope.
What am I saying?
Yeah. So like, and I'm going to do a bunch of demos with that for my Patreon, but I was thinking that should be a whole niche. That should be a whole side lane. Like give me like Code Orange, call me. I'll do like the Jasta, like no
gimmicks.
No glitching, no electronica, just fucking Gibson, Marshall, reamp, and put it out because that's a whole lane that wants that.
They're for sure listening to this right now, and I know they're going, "Fuck's sake,
fucking
brother.
burying us, dude.
Burying me, brother."
Why? That's a compliment.
I know.
It is a compliment.
But I've had this conversation with them many times, and that's that's one of those records that somebody brought up because I think the glitching and stuff was on the wall, but there's a conversation to be had of like the glitch might be interrupting a spin kick. You know, that a foot might be mid-air when that glitch hits.
Yeah.
It's a danceable moment. You don't ever want to remove that.
Also, because your ears are evolved doesn't mean the people that got you to the dance, it doesn't mean their ears are evolved too. And I used to have this same conversation about Slither, about Quickness, about Earth AD. In time, some of these records that people are shitting on will be viewed as classics,
Always.
as the best record in the catalog.
Dude,
or whatever.
Mag's Alpha Omega.
Yeah, yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Oh, I covered, wait, I don't know if I ever did the vocals for it, but See the Signs. I used to tell Zeus, I would go, yo, take out the cheesy scratching. And this is not a disrespect. It's a fucking opinion. Like, the egos also get in the way. Like, people come to me and they go, oh, I don't like this Hatebreed record. I don't care, because I have my ego in check. Like, I'm just happy I was able to get to that many amount of records.
Still going.
Fuck yeah.
Right. So, like, that was never a case. There was no happy endings. There was very few.
Aside from the record scratching, that song is undeniable.
Oh,
the
it's bananas hard. The lyrics could be written today.
Agreed. I mean, the whole album is lyrics could be written today.
Like, if you look at what's happening now in the fucking East Palestine, Ohio, and all this shit, literally that song about the Skid Row in LA and about it's literally could be happening today.
Yeah.
The record's
the signs of a corrupt nation.
Let's talk about it.
What near-death experience? No
bueno, brother. First song, awesome. First song is a save.
Why don't you go to these bands? Like, why don't you do a whole? Because you could license it from the labels, and no, I'm serious.
I believe
like I was saying earlier, the producer at one point.
You're saying?
Well, the producer at one point was a star.
Yeah,
the producer was a star. Like, if you like Ross Robinson, he put out shit, and these kids with the big pants and the mesh and the guy liner, they were buying that. With the spiky hair, they were buying whatever was on there.
Ross touched,
Near-death experience was Century Media. All Music gave it 1.5 stars. Pretty
well. I had Ross on my show, and I was talking about why we didn't go with him to record Perseverance. And people looked at me like I was fucking crazy. Are you fucking crazy? You have a chance? Ross Robinson, he's even taking your call. He called on my old landline.
Wow. I
have my Greek landlord like breathing down my neck. Anybody who's ever had a Greek landlord, they know the Greeks don't fuck around. Our old drummer was Greek. Like, I knew a lot of Greeks. Like, I had a baby on the way. He wouldn't even fix the railing. Like, my girl's out there. Like, my daughter was born in January. We're coming home, trying to go up the fucking concrete steps to the apartment. There's no fucking railing. It just snowed. Like, this is the type of scumbag shit we had to deal with. But I knew that this record was so important that if we put Ross Robinson's name on it, now I'm No Warning. Now I'm right. You have to know your base.
Well, I mean, I want to work our way there, but before I do, Perseverance, quite possibly not even just hardcore, one of the greatest follow-ups in the history of music.
Crazy.
You're too kind.
No, this is objective, brother. This isn't even. It does come from a place of kindness and love, but I don't know a single person that would be like, you're wrong. You know.
And then even crazier what comes after.
But we'll get there. Let's go back. Let's go back to Under the Knife real quick. But was it before or after Under the Knife when it felt like a turning point of like, okay, we got something? I think the
plan's
our formula of handing out the flyers to the two girls at the Into Another show might be working.
It was kind of during, because the snail mail started to rack up. The mail from Europe, Japan, Australia. The tape trading too was key, because that was like the original sort of internet. When I talk about the collective consciousness, you knew that your feeling that you got from that demo tape, you knew that there was somebody on that same wavelength that when they got it in the mail, they were going to put it in the tape deck, and they were hopefully going to get that same feeling.
Hey, these guys like what I like, clearly.
And they're on the other side of the world. Wow.
Yeah. Oh, you know what? You guys were nice enough to let me go off on what I call is a Tommy tangent. Like, that's a character on my Patreon. So I apologize.
Patreon.com/.
I went on a full Tommy tangent, but I was going to say I was going to shout out Higher Force because their demo, it was great. I was just talking to Sean about this. Shout out to Sean Martin. I forget where I was talking about it.
He was our first guest.
Nice.
Yeah.
But I was saying that quality of that demo, and then also they had the real cassette where the cassette was like a color and then it was printed on the cassette. I didn't even know that. I thought that was only available to like major label people. So when I saw that, and I forget who they recorded it with because I'd really like to give that person a shout out, but that I was telling Sean that was such a step up from his previous band Evolve, who when I was in my old band, I would always try to hit those guys up, talk to those guys at the shows, but they were like the gatekeeper guys. You know, it was like, oh, leave me alone. Who's this 13-year-old kid? You know, don't bother me with your band. So I knew early on, nobody's doing you any favors. You got to book your own show. You got to be the guy.
Yeah, absolutely. You have to stand out in some way.
Yeah, because no one's going to put you on their show. They already got 5 other bands they're friends with that want to get on the show.
Right.
And there was a VFW hall that actually was run by a Greek dude. Shout out. And
shout out Greece.
Greece was because like anybody who's ever been to a diner after a hardcore show or a punk rock show. It's like, you know the deal. The Greeks, they're making it happen. They're coming in. If they don't come in, they send like a cousin to come in to do the work. And it's like Panos can't come. He's sending in Nick. Christos. And you're like, all right.
Nick. I got a Greek spot 2 doors down. Wonderful.
Nice.
Wonderful.
Yeah, so I would see people at like the diner after the shows at the Greek diner, give them the tapes, say, hey, let's do a show. Sometimes they were like, leave me the fuck alone. Sometimes they're like, all right, people. But once our shows started popping off on its own, then it was like, oh, now we're talking. Like now it would go from 40 kids to 60 kids to 100 kids and so on.
And then Under the Knife, post Under the Knife, everything was different, right?
You know, that was kind of a step back with the recording because again, we didn't have the budget. Went to a different studio. It's not the best sound.
But people love the way that thing sounds.
I know, which we were just happy that people liked it. We're just like, and that was a big deal. We're gonna make it at disc makers. And I remember talking to disc makers, and they were like, "Yeah, we got the cassettes with the printing on it." And I was like, "Really? That's what I want." Yeah, I want So I want the black cassette. All right, that's extra. Shit. Okay, well, we gotta come up with the loop.
We'll figure it out.
Yeah.
Wow. Under the Knife, man.
And infamously, after Under the Knife and before Satisfaction, there's a long period of time. Or am I? No, I'm sorry. It's after Satisfaction.
No, that was Satisfaction. After. But you did a split with Integrity. What was that like for you as just an Integrity fan at the time?
I mean, it was a letdown just strictly because Dwid was on his other like worldly. He was just in another world. But
he was on some art shit.
Well, I'll hand it to him that after just giving me the runaround, he did eventually get me the tracks. And I was scatterbrained too. So a lot of it could be put on me. Sure. If you ever get him on the show and you ask him about it, he might put it on me, but I just remember it was like I would like punish this dude to try to get a response. And again, I thought, okay, maybe we don't need to rely on other people to like, maybe we should just do our own thing. Like maybe we should just distance ourselves from these bands because they're not really like Integrity wasn't a band that was like unifying people. And I mean that with the utmost respect because they were, I think, as far as players and as far as the tones and as far as And I know people will say they can say like which riffs they ripped off and this and that. You can say that about every band.
That's making music, baby. That's the business
right.
we're in.
Yeah.
But at that time, there was also this whole scene divide where I was like, I don't want to be in this. Like, I don't want to be involved with this. I want to go play Buffalo. I want to go play Albany. All these places have great scenes. Like, it's not a competition. But for whatever reason, with Cleveland, and they were older than us too. I think that might have had something to do with it. Like, they all had very large egos in all those Cleveland bands. Some, not so much Ringworm, because they were kind of like your buddies, like neighbors band. And I remember getting the vinyl and being like, oh my God, like they're drinking Milwaukee's Beast like we do. Like they're not, they're not rich kids. Cause that was the other thing. The rich kid bands, they would show up, they got 5150s, they got fucking brand new 40 Econoline van with fucking rims on it. Right. Like we're like, who are your parents? How do you make this shit happen? We're sleeping on top of my grandmother's house with my Uncle Paulie, rest in peace. He's on Under the Knife. He's the guy on the he brought us on our first tour with my previous band. So we rented Uncle a U-Haul.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Wow.
So we went down to Virginia Beach, played with Nate from Converge's old band Channel, who I had put out on my label. I put out the 7-inch. We went with this band Dive from Massachusetts, who now Matt is in the Dropkick Murphys. So we had seen like these guys that weren't like team players. We grew up dealing with them. So we knew like, let's not make the same mistakes that they're making. And it's not a diss. It's just, they would probably admit that now. I'm sure maybe even Dwid would admit that now. It's like, and it was funny. It was entertaining.
Sure. I mean, you can't it worked out for Hatebreed in the end. You can't get mad at whatever path you took.
And you can't say they took the wrong path. I'll tell you that much.
Did you have any interactions with Frank?
There are people that say, there are people that literally, they just want to support the most underground, obscure, small bands. And I'm the same way. So I don't knock them. I'm just saying, I realized that there was a huge network of great bands. We could all tour together. We could all come up together. But that wasn't the case with certain bands.
Sure.
They weren't putting the ladder down.
Was old Florida Frank cool in 1996 to you?
Yeah. No, Frank was always cool. I had roadied for the band too. So like I had driven in the van with them and helped out here and there. And I liked all the guys, but you could see they weren't going to, that lineup was not going to stay the same. And to me, that classic lineup was the best version.
Sure.
A lot of people don't remember when they jumped the shark and did the whole Integrity 2000 thing. And so that was like an example, like, do not do that. Do not
evolve, don't change. That was a change.
Right. I was gonna save this for later, but he came up, and I think we have to talk about Frank's pedigree of bands. Possibly the best.
Solid.
Possibly,
untouchable resume.
Like pound for pound, Ringworm, Integrity, Terror, Hatebreed.
Well, see that, but also the only reason why I bring this up, and shout out to Frank, still love The Promise. I still go listen to it. And not too long ago, I forget what song we put on it might have been when you were on. There was one episode we were on, maybe my hardest hardcore tracks. I think we put Misha, Integrity is on there. One of the songs is on there.
There was a blowout. There was a verbal blowout between Wayne and Frank regarding Seasons and Systems.
Really?
Yeah, I don't remember the exact context, but it was like it ended up in both like being like, I can't talk to you right now. And it was like it was nice for me to see the passion about the Integrity discography is still going.
Yes.
That was nice for me.
Well, a lot of people jump ship like on Seasons Seasons in the Size of Days, which isn't a bad record. A lot
Seasons
of people
is hard as fuck, dude. Seasons has pound for pound some of the hardest integrity pit parts.
for sure.
Orbital teleplastic emanation. Fuck off. That's a pit, dude. Spin kick.
Rolls off the tongue.
It does.
We were also getting accused of being like an integrity ripoff band on the demo. So you can hear on Under the Knife, it was, I said, well, Integrity doesn't do blast beats. Like, think about all these bands that we like that have so much of a bigger audience than Integrity. Like, and if we got to get away from that tag and create our own sound, that's why you hear such a different sound from, and it kind of makes me crack up when people say, oh, every song sounds the same. It's such a big difference from Under the Knife in the demo to Satisfaction.
Yeah.
Where Satisfaction is really not inspired by Integrity at all.
No, I wouldn't say so.
And our old guitar player Lou, God rest his soul, you know, when I first showed him the riff for Empty Promises, he hated it. He was like, this is like Rage Against the Machine or something. And I'm like,
wow,
what are you talking about, dude? This shit's hard. Like, this is gonna be the opener. Like, this is the album opener.
This is it.
And it was like,
he said that about the
yeah.
Wow.
And I don't even like bringing up stuff like that because he's not here to
rebut,
state his case.
Yeah.
But he did that multiple times. But that was kind of like, you know, in a loving way. I was kind of like, well, you're older than us,
all right,
and you don't have the same vision as us.
Yeah,
like you're kind of in that older camp where you have one version. And so I thought if he doesn't like it, it might be huge.
Wow.
You know, because he didn't like I Will Be Heard either.
The litmus test of age.
Boulder razzing you on the Empty Promises breakdown.
Yeah, and he didn't like I Will Be Heard either. And
that's a certifiable mistake.
He didn't like the riff.
Oh, I see.
But
interesting.
Again, he's not here to dispute that.
Yeah,
so
of course.
Rest in peace, Boulder, legend.
Yeah. And now when I look back and I go, when you go with your gut and when you hear things, because you know how you hear things with your gut, like it hits you, like you hear something and it's like, you're just going by a feeling. You could strategize all you want, but if you don't have that feeling, no, someone else is not going to have that feeling. That's why probably when you guys record your demos and stuff, you scrap a lot of stuff or you...
Dude, I have what's called the next day test. If it still rocks the next day, it's good.
Yeah,
you record it and then you sit on it overnight and then you listen to it the next day. It's still good. You're like, all right, it's good.
Yeah.
Well, I have an addictive personality, so like I'll hum a song in my head. Like if I get an earworm, I could have an earworm for 6 months to the point where I'll lose my mind. Like, so people go, oh, why was it so long in between two records, almost 5 years? You don't understand. That shit was replaying in my mind for years.
Dude, we're the same person, Jamey.
Yeah, you're describing.
We're the same. You're describing my entire every single riff, especially like breakdowns and mosh parts, is like a full science experiment. It takes a year of focus grouping in here to figure out the right way to play each little part.
I still have the riff you showed me over the weekend. Only twice. Still have it in my head. So
there we go.
You got
that one. The focus group is the results are in.
You ever have a riff that has to go with certain lyrics? It can't be like the two are married.
I wanted to ask you about this specifically because I learned over the course of time that you are the riffman for a lot of, if not most, Hatebreed stuff. And being the lyricist singer, I'm imagining you do that a lot, where you hear a riff and you hear the part and you know how you're going to deliver it. You know it's going to be the sing-along part or whatever it is. I have to imagine that happens at the same time for you.
A lot of times it does, but also if I write, like say a chorus or I write a verse, and sometimes I'll write a second verse with a different cadence or whatever, I'll then fit the riff and I'll choose whichever riff I think like flows better under that cadence. But I've had, and this is why now I'm just branching out and doing production and doing co-writes and stuff. I've had so many songs that I knew I couldn't put out as Hatebreed or as Jasta or as Kingdom of Sorrow or whatever. Like where then it's in my head for so long. That's how this whole Corpse Grinder record came about.
Wow.
I had this hook, it was so ignorant. It was, I'll pull the trigger, I'll flip the switch. I'll pull the trigger, I'll flip the switch, I'll pour the gas, I'll light the match, no questions asked. And I would go, it was in my head for like literally 8 months. And finally I was like, I can't say this shit. Like, I don't want this shit coming to life, and I don't want this on me. Like, cause
you
I
had
want
to put it on old George.
Because it's spells. Like, you're casting a spell. Like, it was so dark. Like, some of the shit was so dark. And I know, because after touring for 5 years on Satisfaction and seeing people like almost kill each other, I was like, this is some sorcery. Like, I need to balance out some positivity.
You've been casting spells on me for a long time, Jamey. I'll tell you what.
Thank you.
So is that where that came
far
from?
Too kind.
The lyrical, I'm not going to say change, but just kind of redirection towards a more positive viewpoint, I guess, or message overall. Wow.
Yeah,
you wanted people to not mosh as hard? Is that?
No, you just wanted to have the violence be associated with a cathartic experience and have it be associated with a cleansing, where, like, you see now, say in UFC, these guys are going to take each other's heads off, but at the end there's like sportsmanship. I just looked at it as like having a balance and like having sportsmanship. Like, we could have the show, everybody's fucking beating the shit out of each other. It's controlled chaos and it's sanctioned violence.
There is more sportsmanship than ever, pit wise, in hardcore right now. I will say
I've seen
less fights per capita per
very
show.
Few fights recently.
Good,
but way harder.
It was getting bad, and it was getting to the point where there were people, like high up people, going, "You will be named in the suit, and the judge will set a precedent, and then you will be known as the person who ruined it for Mariah Carey and ruined it for." And all you need is one judge to set the precedent. Because when we first got on Ozfest, it was like, you can't say this, you can't say that, you can't do this.
What couldn't you say? Like, fuck it up or something?
Like, look at the person next to you, punch him in the face. Like, like in Boston, look at the person next to you. If they're standing still, they're a Yankees fan, and vice versa. Like in New York, look at the person, anybody standing still is a Red Sox fan. Literally, the whole place turns into a fight.
That was banned.
Oh yeah. They were like, you cannot fucking
no
do
sports
that.
References at fucking Ozfest, dude.
Kid.
But also, it was because you were associated with hardcore. This is back when this was when people with like face tattoos, nobody saw them until they were at our shows. Like, it was like you seeing somebody in the wild, that this was a shock to people. Like, they're like, these people are criminals. These kids are criminals. Like, so it was different then. They now it's normal. Like, now you see someone with a face tattoo, and
it's not
like,
taboo
it's a
anymore.
TikToker. It's a
True.
right. You don't think that they're gonna have like a bunch of dudes roll up on motorcycles and
when before it was guaranteed.
Yeah,
it kind
he
of
has a face tattoo. I'm dead.
It goes along with what Jay from Mindforce was saying, is that like moshing now, like hard moshing, is kind of scarier because everyone's doing the crazy shit. Whereas back in the day, he was saying, especially particularly in like Hudson Valley, which he said
and
1,000 times in Connecticut, it was like there'd be one or two guys doing that, and they were just the craziest guys.
The Untouchables.
Yeah.
The made men.
Well, yeah, and then you had people swinging chains. You had people bringing pit bulls, people bringing shovels, just all sorts of shit where it was just ignorant. I mean, you had garbage cans being thrown.
Did you do much touring on Under the Knife?
Yeah, actually, we did a tour with Voorhees. Shout out to Neil. Shout out to Final Conflict. Shout out to, we did a tour. See, that was another real turning point too, was that was like a more basement grind crust circuit, which is a great circuit. Like that's a good time. Like I'm sure that still exists.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
But that was an eye opener because it was like, okay. And this is the case for every crossover band. It was the same for AF because I remember reading about AF going through this where, you know, they're on tour with Malevolent Creation and Cannibal Corpse and Obituary, and I thought that was rad. But then they were like,
what record would that have been on?
That was on One Voice,
that's like their straight up most modern hardcore record.
Yeah,
that's hard as fuck.
Yeah,
so that's wild.
I went into Rhymes Records and I go, that's a tattoo? That this guy has the poster is just Roger's chest.
Right.
And it's this crazy tattoo. And and the guy goes, yeah, that's Roger. That's Roger Moret. And I go, I got to know this guy. Like, this is crazy. Who would do that to their chest? I go, this guy has to be the best record ever. Yeah. Then I got the tape and I played it for a friend and they were like, and he's like, one of the songs, I think it's Undertow. He's like, yeah, that's about Roger going to prison.
That's some hard lore.
Yeah, I was like, this is one of the hardest things I've ever heard in my life. This is one of the hardest records in my. But then when I went to the show, and they played at this place, it was either called the Urban Jungle or it had just turned over and it was called the Tune In. You could tell everybody was scared at the show. Like people didn't want to mosh, and it was like they had taken a dip on that record, even though I thought it was amazing. I liked those records. Yeah. That was actually
the perception has changed now. It's very fondly appreciated.
Yeah. But then they came back and they had Lars produce the record. We did a bunch of the reunion shows. That was a game changer for us too, getting the cosign from AF. When they came back, that they knew the collective consciousness. Like, yes, let's have it be sing along. Let's have it be brotherhood, unity, fun, inclusion. Like that was a big deal. Like that inclusion means something different now. Back then it was like, yeah, let's have punk rockers. Because Warzone, we would play with Warzone all the time. It was amazing. And I had gone to see. What's that?
Hatebreed and Warzone would play together all the time.
All the time. And actually Ray Bees was gonna guest on Satisfaction.
Wow.
And we just didn't, for whatever reason, we didn't link up. This is back when you're calling people on landlines, you're writing letters, or you're going to their place. That was a big deal when AF and Warzone both started popping off again. That was amazing because I was like one of those kids. I liked the re-records. Like the Victory re-records of Warzone, they were great. The production was up there with other stuff that was out, and all was forgiven. Like from the Bullet Hole record, that was another Dollar Bin record.
We talked about that briefly last week.
Okay, yeah, like that was one. You walk up to the counter, the kid's like, "Don't do it." I'm like, "It's only $1." No, don't do it.
Not worth
it. But the changing of the guard is another thing that you gotta be aware of because the kids that would come and go, like all those kids at the Fugazi show that were like, yo, you guys get the fuck out of here, go fuck yourselves, fuck moshing, fuck stage diving. They were all lawyers and doctors like 3 years later. They were going to Yale. They were the kids that we hated.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it was like,
and
who cares?
you see at the time, if I was a young Jasta, I would have been like, fuck these motherfuckers. But you immediately business mind where like, I see there's another thing happening. I need to do this other thing.
If I want this, other people have to want this.
Yeah.
But I was also promoting shows and I would see the kids that would get dropped off. So that made me think differently. Growing up, being so close to Yale, but having so little and being like, how do these people have all the, like, there's like helipads and shit. Like this is the most powerful and rich people on earth. And literally 2 blocks away is just gang violence, homelessness, projects right at the end of my street. I was just there the other night because my brother actually bought some other property right near the house that we grew up in. The projects are still there at the end of my street. I mean, that was just scary walking to school, just dealing with certain people there. And then the club that you go see the shows, like where Nirvana played, Melvins, Typo, Exploited, that was only maybe 8 blocks down Whaley Avenue, this place, the Moon, and then another whatever 8 to 10 blocks down is where the Urban Jungle and the Tunin was. But it was stark contrast going there, walking, riding your bike, or taking the bus. Once you get into Yale, I mean, you're talking Skull and Bone Society.
Yeah.
You're talking about relatives and people like kids where, like, I remember this girl had security. She was going to Yale. She had security. And we were like, who the fuck is this chick? And she ended up being on the show Roseanne. I think she was like the daughter on the
Sarah
show.
Gilbert?
Either Becky or
Someone should, I could be totally Brian Williamsing the shit out of that story. What's the guy's name? I could be fucking Brian Williamson the shit out of that story.
You're Andrew Morrising the shit out of that story.
And I love, I love to embellish with the rest of them, but
sure.
But the point I'm trying to make is that
Sarah
it was, once I started doing the door at my own shows, I was like, I can't really knock these kids because they're helping me not lose my shirt. They're helping me pay my rent or pay the studio bill. And when they're getting dropped off, in the Mercedes or in the BMW, but they got their Liberty spikes. And I did all the shows. I did the Christian shows. I did the ska shows. I did the punk. I did the, the metal shows. I did even like glam shows. Like I did Rat. And then I did like big shows like Guar, Misfits. So I promoted shows and I saw each sort of crowd.
Did that help you at all later while Hatebreed was popping off with these bands remembering you booking them?
It did. In some where it didn't go great, it didn't help me. Like because
Guar was like, yo, the fucking Connecticut dude.
Yeah, Guar, there was multiple times where it was almost came to blows. Wow. Another one with Lou, God rest his soul. We rolled up to go see these dudes in Amen, and they were opening for Guar. And we just rolled up to go see them, and we were taking a piss out back of the Chance, but we were pissing on Guar's bus. Like we were pissing on
the bus?
On the tire, because it's like the bus is parked in the alley.
That don't count. That's gonna roll right off.
And Brocky came out, started screaming, wanted to fight. And then when we eventually got put on their shows, we got kicked off the tour because of that was because we had too many friends backstage. Somebody stole something. The typical, like, this is why we don't have nice things.
Yeah.
That a lot of bands deal with.
Connecticut activity,
And I actually got spared, going like having long-term problems with people you don't want to have problems with, and and booking agents and managers and people that could really fuck your career up.
Yeah.
Like Misfits eventually were like, don't worry about it. Jerry was cool. Doyle was cool. It was just stupid drunken behavior with us and our friends. And but yeah, seeing those kids come up to the shows, I would say like, yeah, well, why wouldn't you want this person as your fan?
Yeah,
because
they're buying tickets to something. So
right, because that was the shortcomings that a lot of bands like volunteered. They just volunteered. They would go like, oh, we're not playing with that band. I go, why? Are you crazy? The band is huge. No, fuck that. We're not playing. And I'm not gonna say what bands, but you guys know them.
Yeah,
and. Sure. It was like, you don't want to open for Slipknot. You don't want to open for Deftones. You don't want to like Korn. We turned down. We actually went to play with Machine Head instead. And then everybody was like, yo, what are you? And the Machine Head show was great, but it was only like 200 people. Korn sold out Toad's place, 1,000 fucking people.
Yeah. Right. I did not, growing up, I'm 35 now. So growing up when Korn was first like a thing, I was very, very young. I never realized until I watched that fucking Woodstock documentary that came out last year how big Korn was.
They were, the kids, the basketball team at my elementary school was for sure all about Korn.
All about Korn, yeah.
Couldn't tell you another rock band.
And you know what? What's really cool about them, especially? Actually, Scott Lee. Shout out to Scott Lee.
Of course.
He was the one who told me, he's like, these are the kids you got to play for. Like these kids, they just want to mosh. They just want to jump around. They want heavy shit. They don't even know that your scene exists. That's what he said. No. He goes, they don't even know. So I said, all right, where's the show? He's like, because we're playing at fucking Pearl Street and Toad's Place and these clubs. He goes, dude, they're playing New Haven Coliseum.
Fuck
And you know what's funny is when we went to open for Machine Head, you know, I love Machine Head, don't get me wrong, but they had their weights in back. It was like, we couldn't have a dressing room. They have to have their treadmill in there. We're like, this is fantasy. I'm like, bro, there's 200 people here. Like, what do you need all this shit for? They and Stuck Mojo, like they were lifting weights too. And I gave the singer the tape. He kind of like big time me. I was like, whatever. We had a line for the tapes and the shirts, like a line bigger than those two bands. And I was like, all right, we're on to something here. But then they started playing a song. Machine Head started playing a song and the place fucking went berserk. And I go, yo, what song is this? Like, what album is this off? I don't know this one. They're like, no, they just covered Korn. Machine Head covered Korn. That's how big it was. Wow. At that show. Yeah.
At the show where they were.
And I was like,
you said no to Korn.
We were supposed to, because it was something happened, like somebody canceled and they booked like a last minute show. They would have never even had a local band, I think, at that point, because they were already taking out.
Sure.
I forget who they had. Yeah.
Kitty or something.
But so they came back. Satisfaction had come out. They came back to New Haven Coliseum. I went to Kinko's and I just made like 5,000 handbills for all our shows coming up. And then I grabbed a bunch of people. I went to New Haven Coliseum and I was just giving them out to everywhere. And then I went back by the buses. I went down the loading ramp. The dude was looking away. So I got down the loading ramp and I had a copy of Satisfaction on CD and I saw a monkey and I gave it to him. And they ended up taking us on tour many years later, but he had remembered like me giving him the CD. But that was another thing that.
Wow.
You think he signed you to Roadside Records that day, or do you think he
might have? But
he
like
held on to
that was a good thing for us on Supremacy. We needed like some bigger looks because at that point everybody was gravitating towards the like the Dragon Forced and Avenged and just like more noodly type of heavy music. The noodling was and there was, you know, All That Remains was popping off, Kill Switch, Unearthed, like there was a lot of noodling. So for us to go out with Korn, like in Australia and in Europe, even though people looked at it as new metal, it was really caveman still. It wasn't noodly.
No noodles for me, dude. I closed up.
He's vehemently anti-noodle. But before we get to noodling,
keto when it comes to riffs.
You said a word a few minutes ago, Jamey. You said the word satisfaction. Let's talk about objectively a record that is on the hardcore Mount Rushmore in terms of impact on the genre.
Man, I gotta come on this show more often.
We're gonna come and suck you off whenever you want.
You're gassing me up. You're gassing me up.
This is just facts though. Like there's nobody that can listen to this and be like, Satisfaction didn't change things. It changed things.
Yeah.
You're the biggest hardcore band ever. Did you feel when recording these 14 songs, by the way.
Wow.
Jesus Christ. 14 songs, 25 minutes or something. Did you feel like you did something? Or were you like, all right, we just did our first LP. Let's hope it goes well. Or did you finish this thing and think,
we got it.
Damn, boys, we got something here.
Yeah, but there was a lot of people. I liked the demo better. That was a major thing.
Oh my God.
But also there was, I don't see this. Well, this is one of the craziest things. And when I tell people this, they don't believe it, but this was a real thing. There was this movement of like, Lou, God rest his soul. I mean, I'll bring him up again. He would call them the persnickety kids. And I go, what do you mean? And he goes, look at them. They're just fucking persnickety. They're like, and I'm like, what do you mean? And he's like nerds. Like, why do you even like this music? Like, they're just nerds. And so they would call Victory like the McDonald's of hardcore. And they would like boycott Victory Band's shows. And it would be a thing. And we were like, and we were offended because we would go places and they would be like boycotting our show. And we wanted to smack the people up. We knew that wasn't going to be a good idea long term.
Of course.
Sure.
And
but it happened.
And these are kids that were just snitches and they were going to become cops and lawyers. And, you know, so like.
And meanwhile, McDonald's fucking.
And McDonald's the GOAT. So,
we're like,
that's high praise.
like, have you had a fillet of fish, extra tartar? Like, come on. I mean, this is, but
Happy to be on that team.
So we would be bummed. And then and sometimes we would be like, man, we could have been friends. Like we could have. And so that really changed our perspective. Like, okay, now we really gotta try to not have these people fuck our whole careers up, because they're looking to cause problems and instigate and get us to react. So instead of being reactive, we had to try to be like proactive, to be pro when we got in, get to the show on time, which was hard, keep a steady lineup. Because people really liked the songs, they liked the record. You know, Madball and Earth Crisis really helped us out. That was a big deal for us to get on the Madball and Earth Crisis tour. But really also the big one for us was Entombed. That was a big deal for us to get the Entombed tour.
Really?
And was that the one that did it, where you felt like things had changed, things were changing?
Well, yeah, and also because you need that ultimate warrior moment. Like everybody, and there's many, like, I call them mini ultimate warrior moments. A lot of bands are afraid to have the ultimate warrior moment where the other band puts you over.
Gotta get put over by Hogan eventually, you know?
Yeah.
It's just not going to happen.
And you gotta like ride with it, and you gotta sell it. Like Warrior sells it, even though
you're speaking
not,
our language, man.
So for us, getting a couple of shows, like having the promoters be like, yo, you got to go on above Bloodlet. That was a big deal, because there were people that were like, Bloodlet is the next Integrity, or Bloodlet is the next, you know, big
How did
thing.
Bloodlet feel about you going on after them?
I forget which shows we went on above them. I think probably Connecticut, probably a couple other ones. But the Bloodlet was cool because they had brought us to Florida. We had gone down and played with them, and they were a great band and still are a great band.
So they got it. It's good business. It's exactly like wrestling. It's how it works.
And it's like, you know, you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours. Like when we went, like a goal of ours was to sell out Lemoore. I used to take the train down. I used to go to Brooklyn, hand out flyers at those shows. Like if we were playing in the city, if we were playing at CB's, or we were playing at, you know, any of the venues, we would see like, okay, you're too metal for fucking ABC No Rio. We would try to get on shows. Yo, we did a tour with Voorhees. We played with Disassociate. We played with Final Conflict. No. You're too metal. You're too metal for the hardcore matinee. Eventually they, you know, once you start to draw.
Yeah.
Then
they need you. When they need you, things change.
Right. But then you also have to have somebody put you over, right?
Right.
So the Perenni brothers at Lemoore's, they said, and this is on Satisfaction, they said, you got to get another band with a name, you know, and then we'll give you the door, or we'll give you a guarantee, or we'll give you a budget and you pay that band.
Okay.
So we got Leeway, and that was a big thing. Like, you know, you headline over Leeway. And just keep doing that, trying to keep creating new Ultimate Warrior moments, to the point where you get to Roseland, and it's like now at Roseland, the biggest venue in the city, the most legendary venue in the city, have Biohazard open, have Sick of It All open, have Suffocation open, because they had put the ladder down for us. We're having our moment. You want to do the same, but it's also great for you because they're putting you over. They're giving you the Ultimate Warrior moment.
Sure.
That's a beautiful thing. And I think we talk about wrestling pretty often on this show, and like a lot of our listeners don't really fuck with wrestling. But like the thing is like that this aspect of what you're talking about is what once I found that out about wrestling, it's what got me back into wrestling. When I realized
an ebb and
like,
flow.
There's this whole thing where they're working together, and it's a beautiful thing. It's awesome, and it's exactly true.
You got to be in tune. It's a moment-based business, wrestling and music. You got to be ready when those moments come for those bands. It's up to you to make it happen for them, and then so that they can do the same thing for you. What's a modern band whose ultimate warrior moment you want to give to them?
A modern band,
or what's the last ultimate warrior moment you've provided to a newer band, and you were psyched to do? You're psyched to do the job.
I mean, we wanted to do it for Parkway. We thought that was going to be a great look for them. it's too bad that the tour didn't pan out, because we that was going to be a world tour.
Yeah.
Wow.
Where we were going to go to Australia, Europe, and they had always given us props and had always shown us a lot of love in like big magazines and big interviews, big radio shows, like internationally, like shouting us out as an influence. And so, when they started to really have that rise and that come up, we're like, this is a great time to do it, where it benefits both of us. And it's just too bad it just wasn't in the cards. But
It's not out of the question though. But
no, I say never to all this stuff. But we're coming up on our 30th anniversary, and we actually, believe it or not, on this last run that we did with Gatecreeper, Dying Wish, and Body Snatcher, who
I was there,
were smaller bands at that time. Like they've already all three have really grown in the last 6 months. Like Body Snatcher is selling out fucking 1,000 caps right now. Like they sold out the place we played together. I think last night or the night before. So, when bands like that, they start to have their moment, it just helps our case down the line when we have to sell a promoter or a group of promoters on a package that they don't feel is necessarily strong.
Right.
Once you do the numbers, then it's all good. So like coming off that tour for Perseverance, now we're going to, next year is going to be the 30th anniversary. I don't know if we'll be able to provide that moment, but we would still want to have a stacked package like we did on the 25th anniversary with legendary bands. But yeah, I don't know who that would be. I thought you meant like vice versa, like, the band to play above us.
No, I did.
Okay,
Like
yeah. So Parkway would be a good one. But I mean, who's on the come up that's more metalcore? That one just seemed
Something
like that.
like a Knocked Loose, probably.
Yeah.
Is
Knocked Loose would be a great one too.
Yeah.
It's a great example of bands that have longevity. Hatebreed obviously being one, Terror being the next that comes to mind. And a couple years ago, Terror was direct support for Knocked Loose. Before Knocked Loose really, really popped too. They did exactly what we're talking about. And that tour ended up being great for everyone across the board. That's exactly.
Yeah, and I think Knocked Loose is a good example of a band that they went more extreme. Like they didn't even go
There's no melody.
Softer or anything, no melody.
No, nothing like that.
Yeah, and that more bands should look at that. And because that's even a sort of a better litmus test of what's out there, right? Because I don't know. I see the names and I see the logos. I don't know the music. Like I see this group, Spirit Box. People were sending me this for my Patreon show, my news show, like where we do a little bit of metal news. Like they dropped off some tour, but I had played them on my show and watched the video. And the girl is like very charismatic, really likable.
Good singer.
Yes. And
they popped off crazy hard over COVID.
And there's some like hard riffs and like some bounce and some groove. Like even kind of like there's some stuff that kind of reminded me of Korn. Not a lot, like more genty. I don't even know how to describe it, but
sure.
A band like that needs the moment from say like a Korn or a Deftones. And people would go, why? They have their own thing. Because you don't understand this generational thing. And then when people fall off, they look at that on paper and they go, I wish I was at that show. It doesn't matter if they're smoking Korn or drawing half the crowd and it's leaving. It's still great for everybody because it's high tide raises all ships.
Absolutely. The Satisfaction record release is something that has come up on HardLore a few times.
Really?
And it's like a thing that people are scared to talk about.
Like an infamously rowdy,
legendarily violent event.
Yeah.
Is there anything specifically you remember about the Satisfaction record release that you can tell us?
What would you say that people are scared to talk about it? Is it because
I don't know. I can't tell you. I wish I wasn't there.
November 11th, 19.
Well,
you could tell me about it.
You know what? There was stuff. You know how I said like he would call them like the persnickety kids? that exists now, but bigger than ever. And they would look at that show as just a toxic masculinity fest.
Sure.
And they would look down on it, and they would go, just like we said, this is what we don't want to be at the Fugazi show. They would look at it, we don't want to be that. So there might be people that just are like, the glory days of talking about that stuff, they might feel doesn't reflect well on them in this current climate. I don't give a fuck, because it was fun. Yeah, some people it wasn't fun for them.
Jamey, we love violence.
We are on we're all on the same team here.
We're for violence. So if you're something you remember where you're like, yo, this dude killed this dude, I'm psyched. You know?
So no, I mean, it just look, the culture, whatever the current culture is, they're very hesitant to be pro security, because there's almost this view of like security. You're like one step away from being a CO or being a cop, right?
A cop or something, yeah.
But in hardcore, that's so prevalent because that like is the case. Like in the smaller, like borderline DIY venue that's probably still owned by Live Nation, like the security don't get it. They don't understand that the people moshing are kind of on the same page while they're beating the shit out of each other, especially now. In the metal world, like there's the viral video of like Acacia Strain playing, and the security guy being like, and that's kind of more what it's like in like a normal venue. But
that's cool.
I agree.
Very, very cool.
Yeah,
it should be that way. Catch the people diving, put them down, let them get back in.
Yeah,
don't rough them up. There's no need for that.
But also, every situation is different, and every variable that comes into play is different. And every city is different, and every venue is different. And people want to just generalize and be right. Sure. And that's probably why there's reservations about talking about shows like that, because if you say it from the view of the security, now all of a sudden you're a sympathizer with that. But if you say it of the view of the wild ass band dude and the entourage,
let's hear it.
You know, my thinking is, especially during that time, we had done so many other shows and packed out so many other venues locally. There was no reason to have any of this nonsense. It could have all been avoided. But you're also, what was the thing that pissed everybody off when it was like there's good people on both sides.
Oh God!
Like, right?
Very like fine people.
Yeah.
On both sides. Insane.
You know, you just sound like a total idiot saying that, but there was like a point. People go, "Oh, you're doing the middle. You're playing the middle or whatever." But no, we've done both. I've been a promoter, and by the contract, I had to have security, or otherwise the band wouldn't play. In that case, it was put on us very last minute, and there was multiple conversations had of like, this is going to end badly. You can do whatever you want, but trust me, going to end badly.
Hundreds of people who are ready to beat the shit out of each other,
who hate you,
and the only unification is the band and hating you.
Well, and also it's like at that time, say the cops did come and people actually got detained or actually got arrested. No one's saying shit.
Yeah, no.
And it was guaranteed. It was like that collective consciousness. Nobody was gonna say shit. So even then, it's gonna be your word against whoever gets detained or obviously that's, you know, that was well avoided.
Yeah.
There was fallout, there was calls, there was other things after the fact. Nobody knows nothing. What are you gonna do? Okay. I think we might have even I don't think we ever went back and played, but I might have promoted another show at some point there, or that
All
could have
right.
been the end of it. I don't know. There was a lot of, also, there's a lot of these guys that they thought they brought the crowd.
At
That
the
was
Satisfaction record release?
No, at every show, at every venue.
Oh, I got
Okay.
you.
So there is these guys that would own the venue or that would promote like the cover bands, and then they would go, "Oh, I could call this booking agent." No, they don't get that. It's an established. Like they didn't get that we're mailing out
the community
flyers to
aspect.
fucking
They're
1,200 people.
I'm
Like
really
we're
good
putting
at
on,
booking shows.
like they wouldn't get, like we would literally mail out 1,200 fucking flyers. Like we would
Wasn't
go
that
to
what killed CBGBs essentially? Is like hardcore kept it alive. And then they kind of were just like, now we're gonna do some jazz nights and shit. And then the hardcore matinees ceasing, wouldn't that have had a huge, like, CBGB's kind of not fucking with hardcore anymore? Wouldn't that have killed it?
I think there was, you know what?
There's a movie. There's a movie about CBGBs. They don't talk about a single fucking hardcore band.
Yeah, Dead Boys is like the only thing.
No, that CBGB's movie is the biggest piece of shit in cinema history.
It's terrible.
That I would have to ask Drew Stone. You guys should really have Drew Stone on this show if you haven't yet. He has a great podcast, and he would know more. But I played one of the last shows at CB's, and I remember they were saying like rent was going to be raised, or the building was going to be sold, or a combination of both. Like maybe until the building was sold, they were going to try to renew the lease, but then the lease was going to be upped or something, and then it just became unmanageable. I'd have to ask Drew. He would probably know. But I remember thinking like, someone should step in and buy this. Like, where's all these rockers that wear the fucking CB shirts? Like, where's
Straight up, dude?
The Green
and I don't want
Day.
to, yeah, like I don't want to put anybody on the spot, but like, yo, like, where's like Iggy Pop? Like, where's fucking Axl Rose? Like,
Who made this movie? Where are they? Jesus Christ.
That's a very good point. I just got those Negative Night bootlegs that I bought. Speaking of infamous,
the
shows,
shows,
the Carnivore, Sheer Terror, Biohazard, L'Amour show shirts I just got today.
That's amazing.
I love talking about like these infamous, like, oh yeah, that was a bad one. So
see,
it fits
also,
right in with the.
We knew then, especially trying to be in a professional band, we knew that tragedy was avoided, and that we got lucky, and that there was kind of like a 9 Lives thing where it was gonna eventually, you knew the more, it's just variables, like it's just math. You go from having 300 to 800, now you got 1,200, and some of these places it's not safe. The capacities, you're oversold.
Yeah.
And if the promoter is telling you it's 600, there's 1,200 in it. You know, especially with some of these sketchier clubs.
Yeah.
And then, you know, remember what happened at L'Amour at Life of Agony. That was a big deal. That made it onto like the news. Like that was, and even some of the stuff was Suicidal. It had like the band in LA, like that made it onto our news. That even made national news.
Yeah.
And so when shit started to get like that, we thought, okay, it was cool in theory. It was cool for the story. It wasn't cool.
Sorry, I'm sorry to interrupt you. What happened with Life of Agony at L'Amour? I don't know the story.
Somebody died.
Wow.
Yeah, and
I mean, that's never cool. Like like there's no like, oh, that was a rough one.
That's the one line
that's like
that you don't want to cross. But other than that,
Christ.
Pardon this interruption. It's Manscaped time. Bo, tell them what we got.
We got the all new Weed Whacker. This bad boy. Let me show you guys something. I got them both. Here's the old one. Listen to this. Okay. Here's the new one.
Oh,
you kidding
that's gonna
me?
whack the fuck out of you.
It's great. It's you can use it wet or dry, so like in the shower or not. It's got replaceable heads, so every couple months you can be a clean little boy or
and
girl.
that's for like ears, nose, and whatever?
No other holes, I don't think. I think it's just ears and nose, I'm going to be honest.
I'll find out and
Do
let
my
you
own
know.
research there.
I'm loving the foot duster lately.
The foot duster rocks, right?
I got some nasty dogs that are barking, and this silences them a little bit.
A little bit. Puts a little muzzle on.
Crop Revivers, my OG. This
That's
is like my. I'm not leaving the house without this. Basically,
Tell them how you use that. Like, what is your...
if I'm working out, I don't want anybody to smell me,
Of course.
and I come with a funk. I'm sorry. This eliminates the funk.
This eliminates the funk.
No
I also
funk.
recently got the body wash, which is in my shower, so I don't have it right here, but it smells very
Take
nice.
a shower live on the
Should I take a shower?
pad. Yeah.
All right, give me a second.
All right.
And yeah, I'm very. It's like we said in the beginning. We tried some Manscaped stuff, and we were like, yeah, this stuff is good. Let's see what we can do with them.
Yeah.
Every
20%
product
off.
that I've tried, I've been like, oh, this rocks.
Yeah. Code HardLore, 20% off, free shipping. You could get all of it too. You should,
You should.
because it helps us.
Helps us a lot. I would. Woo.
It's also whatnot time, Bo,
Yes.
and more so than ever, because we
Yes.
finally have a date booked for the first ever HardLore whatnot, Friday, March 24th.
The 24th. Do we
It's
know
going to be
what
the
time?
only place in the world you can buy this. It's going to be.
Oh, that's a good point.
We're going to have some OG Harm's Way stuff, some OG God's Hate, Twitching Tongues, all of our bands, many other bands that, there's going to be lore for every single item that we've got on there.
If you're a medium, if you wear size medium, brother, I got you.
Oh, you're going to be rich with stuff. So join us on Whatnot. Also, for Jasta, we want to plug Milwaukee Metal Fest, baby. It's back Friday, May 26th to the 28th.
Yeah, it's that weekend. You
we're gonna
got
give
some
two-
lineup heavy hitters for them. Go ahead and
Crazy
just give 'em-
fucking lineup.
Just give 'em with
Biohazard
some
first show
headliners.
back. Dark Angel, Napalm Death, Dying Fetus, the best band ever. Crowbar, Revenge, COC, Anthrax, Suicidal, Black Dahlia, Shadows Fall, Obituary, Fear Factory, Lamb of God, Machine Head, After the Burial, The Halo Effect, Terror, fucking
Creeper. Yeah.
Goat Whore, Frozen Soul, Undeath, Dying Wish, friends of the show, many friends of the show on this
Lots
thing.
of friends.
We want to give away 2 free tickets right now.
Colin had a good idea.
I do. So if you're seeing this, you might be the first one to do it. So the first person that tweets us a video of them screaming for 5 seconds, absolutely as loud as they can, on
As loud as
Twitter,
you can.
will win 2 free tickets to this. We will announce the winner. Scream as loud as you can. For example, ah! Do something like that
For 5 seconds.
For 5 seconds. I don't
No
want to do
bullshit
it for
now.
5 seconds. Yeah, I don't want to see 4, 3. I want 5 full seconds of loud screaming to show that you belong at Milwaukee Metal Fest.
Yeah.
That's it for our ads. Enjoy this legendary episode with Jasta. Go hard. Do you see? It's a little different now. You obviously Hatebreed is the biggest hardcore band in the world. You're playing these massive arenas and big shows and stuff. I see violence as like the ultimate sign of respect. When playing this inherently violent music, that's the ultimate sign that I've done my job. You know, is like this riff was so hard that you're beating the shit out of that guy. Thank you. That's awesome. Do you see that as respect, or are you bummed? Like now?
It depends. I think in whenever I've had like outbursts, or I've had to go into the crowd and grab somebody or yell at somebody or whatever, I can see. I'm not stupid. Like I know when there's punk shit being happening. You know, I think it was Vermont. Watching this kid like target the smallest, weakest kid like
That's
multiple
different, obviously.
times.
Yeah, that's insane.
I think it was Vermont. By approaching them, you're opening a door where there is no learning experience to be had. They're going to double down. They're so deep in this hole, this punk, just shitty hole, that they're not going to go, hey man, I was wrong. Sorry. They're going to go, fuck you.
Yeah.
It's on next time I see you. All this fake bullshit nonsense. So you know what you're getting into. That's the type of shit where I go, this is not what I was intending with the music. Sometimes that sorts itself out. There's some natural selection.
In hardcore now, that sorts
should.
itself out every time.
That's absolutely how it should be.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
But it's different now because there's accountability, and then everybody's got phones, and then it's actually like really like it's kind of like, dare I say, it's normal to like snitch on that type of behavior or whatever.
And they don't even know that they're doing it by recording this shit.
Mm-hmm.
It's great. Right. Stop recording fights.
Like, I'm so glad that we're not, like, I'm so glad we're past that. Like, I'm so glad we're not like the exposure to the normies. Like, whenever I see these clips and then normies are seeing it and they're losing their mind, or it's like becoming viral, I'm so glad it's not us.
Mind Force, the God's Hate dive. Those are all things that like
by
Shaq
the way,
sees, and he's like, what the fuck? Sick.
By the way, I wanted to debut. When is this going to air?
This Thursday.
All right. I wanted to debut our new shirt on this show. I think I could just send it to you, and you can
send it to me. Here it is. Look at this shirt.
Share.
Oh, well, dude. Yes. Yes. Incredible.
Hold on. I got to see it.
Pre-orders
incredible.
Up, Martyr on Thursday. When this airs, martyrstore.net. Get your pre-order in. And just hit me up, whoever the photographer is.
It's Ramon from Knotfest.
All right.
So you're good.
We'll make sure we hit you off with a check. Don't get crazy. All right.
Dude, unbelievable.
We'll make sure the photographer gets a check. And if the photographer wants to send me the high res, we'll make the shirt look even nicer. But I did think it was funny with the low.
Dude,
it's funny with the low. And I love the phone.
Yeah.
Right here. Showing exactly what it's very meta.
Jamey, wow. We're honored.
Does Nate know this? Does Brody know this?
No, I just sent it to
this is one of the best modern show photos.
It scientifically is.
Yeah.
And we've done the Hatebreed logo. We've done God's Hate and the Hatebreed logo. We covered the whole Under the Knife 7-inch. I think you deserve this one.
Well, and you guys even did the mistake. Like where the song, where you did the actual, like the version where it gets cut off, which was hard.
We were true to the 7-inch. Everybody was like, where's Not One Truth? And we're like, motherfucker, not on the 7-inch.
It's filth. I think like the measure gets cut off because of the mastering or whatever. So
it does. Yes. It was very conscious. I'm glad. I'm glad we can talk about this.
Shout out to Wayne. Wayne is the one who really, he noticed that.
Thanks, Wayne. Wayne's always got my back, man.
So let's talk about now the thing that I was mistaken about, the time in between. How do you follow up Satisfaction? And was there pressure, or was there so much time that you were writing and doing your market research in your brain,
Well, yeah, without the internet, it was there, but we didn't know about it. We were just here. Like, we would go to Richmond and we're like, man, these motherfuckers in Richmond, they got money. Like, they could afford a computer and they're telling us what they're saying on the computer. And it was like mind boggling to us. Like, they would tell us like what was, and we're like, where do you see this? Like, what is this? Like, we didn't get it. And they would say that, we sold out. We're like, but the record's not out. Like, we're not even.
What do you mean?
What, like, they're going to
because you signed. Had you already signed to Universal at the time?
I don't even know. I just remember thinking, oh no, it was because we did the Danzig tour. That was like a big no because
really
it wasn't even that much of a ticket. Like, I want to say the tickets were $18. Then that was double or even maybe triple than some of the shows that we were doing. So I could see that complaint, but we were like, yo, the band is called Hatebreed. It's Danzig. He wrote Mother. He wants to take us out. Like, we're not getting it. We're getting the tour because he wants us to do the tour. Like, that's pretty cool. We had heard horror stories about him.
Yeah.
But he chose us, and he was taking like 6 Feet Under, and he was going to put us on the Sam Hain Danzig tour.
Is he cool?
He was always cool to us. And rest in peace, Todd Youth. Todd would let us stay at his hotel room if they were leaving. Really? Joey C was in the band, who's in Circle Jerks and was in Queens of the Stone Age. Like, the whole band was cool. Lazy was cool. Like, we had a good time on the tour. and we had to, like, there was nights where we had to help Danzig out. That was when we saw, like, oh, this is when your whole fan base is persnickety. Like, a lot of the, like, we were like, this is so weird. They're here, but they don't like him, or like they're here, they paid the money to get in the show, but they're like heckling him. Like, it was weird.
Did they not like the whatever new album was, or what? That's
I
so
don't
bizarre.
know, but it was, there would be like issues where that was when I first got the whole mental illness and the stalking thing. And I was like, oh, now I get it why dude just goes to the bus or goes to, because there would be times where their tour manager, shout out to Gary, coach, we would call him, he'd be like, boys, can you go out and just make sure the shit's cool, and this dude needs to get punched in the face, this dude needs to just push this fool, and we would go out there and try to just make sure, like, these fans, you know, weren't gonna do something crazy, because he had that.
Sean Martin was running Danzig protection for the.
No, just looking out, like, you know what I mean,
Okay.
like just in case.
I can hear Sean being like, yeah, whatever, dude. I don't give a fuck.
It's fucking Danzig.
Yeah.
Yeah.
fucking boy.
Plus we're like, why are people doing this? Like, this is weird. So that
That's
you
so
start.
bizarre.
That was a really good time to see haters in real life and just witness it and witness human behavior and go, all right, yeah, this is what you don't want to be. This is what you don't want. You don't want to be fixated on someone and go to their show and bother them. Like, you don't want to do this. Like, use this as an example.
That's mental illness for sure. So Danzig tour being a turning point, isn't what and so 97 to 2002 was Satisfaction to Perseverance.
But also the rollover. You see the rollover. That was important, because a lot of these kids, we would have people from older bands go like, don't worry about it. Like, the kids that are hating on you, they're not going to be around in 2 years. And they weren't. The real people stay around.
Yeah.
The real fans, like, stay around and support. So, and Soulfly, that was a big one too. Soulfly Neurosis.
And that was only a year after Satisfaction. That was 98, right?
That was really big, because that was the trial by fire of, like, oh, you got to match the prices. You got to do this. You got to do that, you know?
Yeah.
And it was, and that was another one where it was like Max, you know, he had like the stalkery kind of thing going on too. Like, people, you go, wow, these are your fans, but they're acting weird and they're saying shit out of the side of their neck. And like, yeah, that was a learning experience. And everything is cool now. Like, whatever we went through, it's all water under the bridge. I said what I had to say back then because I thought it was weird that, you know, Max was just going straight to the bus.
Still does.
Now, yeah, but now I get it. Like, your sobriety is on the line. Your life is on the line. You know what I mean? I mean, same thing with Dimebag. That guy was there and was saying, I'll be back and I'll kill everybody. He was there at Bogart's, and multiple
that changed
people
a lot.
Multiple people tried to get him out of the venue and couldn't. And this guy had like superhuman strength. And JC, shout out to JC. I think he got him out. He put him in like an omoplata and like dragged him down. Like, he got him in some sort of jujitsu move, but he didn't go unconscious. This guy, and that was the guy who ended up coming back and killing him. So
unreal.
That all was like, all right, yeah, you got it. This whole business has to change. People don't get it because they just see their little scene and their people that they know, and they want to generalize.
Sure.
But you really can't. You don't know until you've been there and you've seen it, and you see the real dark side to that shit. That was Rise of Brutality too. So that was another one where we followed up quickly because, again, we knew that changing of the guard was coming.
Dude, 1 year.
Yeah,
how'd you do that?
That's crazy.
I want to stick on Perseverance for a bit, but how'd you do that? After 5 years,
we had to.
between...
We didn't have a choice. We just had to, because the wait was so long in between, and that turnover was about to happen. And we knew, we had gotten a call, and it was like, Slayer's going to give you basically the Ultimate Warrior moment.
Yeah. Fuck.
And it was like, the tour's going to be in October. It's going to be the Jaeger tour, and Jaeger's going to cut a check too, and they're going to market it.
So you had to have this record ready.
Yeah. And we had already done some stuff. So it was really good. And that was a big thing, was like, when we had heard the bands that said no, we were like, are they fucking crazy? Like, go out there and look the people in the eye and fucking get it done. But some people at that time, it was still scary. I think also because on Diabolus, they had taken Clutch and tried some different things, taken System of a Down, and those bands did get a little bit of I don't want to say a bad reaction, but like enough resistance where
But then they popped over, you know?
eventually.
Yeah. Eventually,
But like Meshuggah and Sick of It All, I went to that show because I was like, I'm going to go and flyer the fucking show. We were bummed because Sick of It All got it over us, but we're like, hey, if you're going to lose the tour to anybody, you might as well lose it to one of the GOATs, you know, who kicked down doors for us.
Yeah.
But they had a hard time. It was not the reaction that I expected. But again, it's like, okay, I can kind of see what we need to do to avoid the same type of reaction. And then that was
the Jaeger tour.
Yeah.
yeah. And then once we got it, we were like, finally we got it. And then they took us all over the world. And that even bled into 05, right? Because we did Unholy Alliance. But they had the Ultimate Warrior moment. They gave Slipknot the Ultimate Warrior moment. So we
Slipknot
got to
took you guys a ton, right? At that time?
Yeah. And that
Sean would
really
tell me about
helped
that.
our case. Them taking us in 2000 and getting us on Ozfest, that really helped our case with Slayer.
Wow.
Because those were
Slipknot
building
gives
blocks.
back, man. This show is a gift from Slipknot, basically. you know?
Yeah. We can't say it.
Well, Slipknot and Slayer because and Soulfly, because if you think about Soulfly really popped off before Slipknot. And Slipknot really rode that wave and really surpassed all those new metal bands, surpassed Limp Bizkit, surpassed Korn, surpassed
By
Machine Head.
being way harder than all of them.
Yes,
Way more
and
extreme.
incorporating blast beats and then also having the cred. Like they were at the show, they were front row singing Empty Promises. They were at Milwaukee Metal Fest. They were doing other things, but also, Tattoo the Earth. Even though it was a festival, by them partnering with Slayer and then also showing that they could do all these numbers in these non-traditional venues, it just helped everybody the next 2 summers, because by that point we knew we could ride it another 2 years into getting Perseverance out. We just had to survive another summer, stay above water. And then when Meshuggah and us were up for the second stage, it was whoever sold more records was going to get like the slot right before Down. And then I think we ended up selling a little bit more, and then we got the slot right before Down, which was
This is Rise of Brutality or Perseverance?
Well, this is Perseverance.
Okay.
This was 2002, but so I don't think without that reaction at Ozfest 2002, and admittedly, it was the perfect slot, right? Because Down probably got paid way more money to close that stage. They had to bear the brunt of people heading towards the main stage. And then with Meshuggah being, the type of band that they are, it's more thinking man's metal. It's different time signatures, and they're one of the greatest ever to do it. But putting us in between those two bands that are just a totally different vibe, it just added to this reaction of hard pitting, everybody, getting the logo tattooed, buying the merch, really creating this groundswell that it then became a case for us to, get those Slayer tours, and not lose it to, bands that were, comparable at the time.
You busted your ass to the point where Slayer had to have you rather than fighting for it.
Well, we had heard that was a big deal. Like we had heard oh, Slayer played Salt Lake. My buddy called me from Salt Lake and was like, dude, it's fucking Slayer was here last night. They were wearing your shirt. Kerry King was wearing your shirt. Hanneman had a sticker on your guitar, on his guitar. Like it was a big deal, but that was still in the, I had an email, but I didn't check it. It was like a free, it came with a disc, like it came in the mail.
AOL. Yeah.
It was like you dialed it up. Like my stepmom was showing me how to work it. They FedExed me a picture of him on stage with the shirt. I was like, wow. I guess Victory had sent him the shirt or whatever. So it was like luck meeting preparedness. It was just grind it out. And then, have them give you the cosign, which every band needs.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Was getting off Victory a reason behind Perseverance taking so long?
Yes. Yeah. Because they had to buy us out of the contract, and that took forever. And there was other shit like, and it just goes, you know I've been saying it for years and years. It was like, this is why you have to have a good attorney. You never want to sign deals in perpetuity. You never want to sign away your publishing. You never want to sign, like, I don't think any of these contracts should even be longer than 5 years.
Agreed.
Because Victory didn't have any hand in getting us on these tours. And, all those bands they subsequently signed, they signed with our money.
Yes.
So,
and they signed
that's,
like it was. Scott would tell us about when Victory signed Buried Alive. Saying like he was unhappy. Tony was unhappy with the mix because it didn't sound like Satisfaction.
Yeah, see, he didn't like our record because we didn't do gang vocals. We were like, nah, you already got Strife. Like, we're just doing our own thing. Like, we're not gonna. And and he was like, you gotta have the gang vocals, and we're like, no, it's got to be different. And we love Strife. I still love Strife. But they already had that.
You got Not One Truth. They got One Truth.
Yeah.
So which one is it?
Make up your mind.
I go with Not One Truth. Personally.
See, that line we had before they had One Truth. Because it was like,
it was on your demo.
It was something, but it was something like that had to do with the Hieronymus Bosch artwork. I forget. It was like Hieronymus Bosch. I think it's been in the public domain for, I don't know, 300 years. And that was the thing I learned about, was like, oh, you could use use this art that's in the public domain.
It's all ours, dude. Any military imagery, public domain.
But there was like articles written about him. Like, this is back in the microfiche and in the library days.
Oh, wow.
And so there would be captions to the paintings, or there would be like art critics talking about the paintings and what inspired the paintings, or I forget. And I just remembered I wrote that down out of it was like, yeah, it was.
So you saw One Truth on some painting and you were like, that's bullshit.
No, the quote was, there is not one truth.
Oh, okay.
Cast into stone, only lies cast into flames. And it was accompanying this
like a painting.
It was like a Hieronymus Bosch like a painting. And I said to the screen printer, yo, I want to use this on a shirt. It was a shirt before it was a song, just like Destroy Everything.
Wow.
Like you said, that's horse in front of the cart right there, or other way around, but you know what I mean.
Wow.
It was like some anti-biblical shit or something. And so I was using that as like the hook, like, oh, you got to have a hook. There was multiple people who were purveyors of the hook early on.
Got it. I love a hook, dude.
John Popper.
Oh yeah. Pre-op Johnny Pop. You go pre-op. Pre-op Johnny Pop is the best.
He can go.
Why is all of Perseverance tuned down to C?
Yeah.
Was that a conscious decision for that record, or is Satisfaction C sharp?
It's a standard for sure, right?
The tunings is a weird thing. That again goes back to the demo, because the demo I think is slightly out of tune.
Mm-hmm.
So
just tuned to itself, like whatever. I'm in this, okay.
Right?
Pantera,
right?
Yeah,
yeah, right. They used to call it Texas tuning or whatever.
Yeah,
nice.
A445.
The once you get in, you have to have like a real tuner, and you have to put a battery in it or whatever. You got to plug it in. Like, then the shit changes. I just left that to the guitar players. Like, even now, I actually prefer the higher tunings now.
Yeah.
Hey man, Metallica, and even Slayer. They're only what?
Slayer, E flat.
Yeah.
Look at Municipal. When they started popping off, I felt like, yeah, if you're coming up with hooks, if you're coming up with hard riffs and hooks and standard tuning, like you're like, it's a show off. Like, you're like, I don't need to be tuned to Q. Like,
that is the thing. I mean, if your riff is hard in E standard, it's objectively hard. If you don't have to tune it down for it to for me to Spinkick, you've done something.
Yeah.
Great.
I mean, dude, I'm from the era where like people were bummed on Wolverine Blues. They were bummed on Heartwork, and you go, "What? Are you out of your mind?
That's crazy.
Like, what is wrong with you?" But that was the thing. It was like there's no grind. Like listen to necroticism. Listen to, and you're like, bro, they're coming with hooks. They're coming with hits. Like this is
hard.
Like,
I got
dreams,
a problem with
bro.
straight up
Embodiment?
We would do that on our Jasta shows, like on our Jasta and Friends tour. We would do that. We would fucking come out to that, and I would intro the band. People would be like, "What is he doing?"
What? When did you have the idea to start Rise of Brutality with the Perseverance outro?
This is probably Colin's like favorite thing.
Yo, this shaped my brain, the way that I look at music. I perceived music differently when I heard Rise of Brutality start. I was like, wait, I've heard this.
Yeah, wait.
What?
So there was who did it? Shit. Actually, it might have been Bad Brains. Did Bad Brains do it?
Eye Against Eye.
Somebody else had done it. Now I'm gonna fuck it up. You might have to just come. We might have to put this in the show notes because I don't want to.
Didn't they re-record Eye Against Eye on Quickness? They did it on Quickness and Eye Against Eye for sure. It's the Eye Against Eye intro, and I remember this because Mackie plays it fucking wild. Mackie's
somebody
like
had a closer. Somebody had like a closer outro that went into the opener on the next album. I gotta figure it out. I want to make sure I give him the props.
It doesn't look like it's Bad Brains, at least on these
Shit.
records.
Shit, I'm not sure then. Damn it. It's going to bother me too because it's right on the tip of my tongue. I forget who it was, but I remember hearing it and going, "Oh my God, that's fucking genius." And then and I think it was a quick follow-up too.
I mean, the Eye Against Eye intro is on Quickness, so that could be what you're thinking about. That I know for a fact.
Yes.
Is it?
Yes, because Mackie plays it way crazier than it is on Eye Against Eye. Is very concise and like it sounds like it's to a click track. Quickness, there's not a fucking chance that is to a click track.
Right. Okay. It could have been them, and I think it's somebody else.
Somebody,
John Thompson in the chat says,
yes.
"Doesn't Bolt Throw also do the same thing?" And they might have been. It might
The
have been.
Cenotaph intro is
on
10
every
different
record.
times.
Right.
And they always put it in front of like
The best song.
The song. It's so sick.
Let me ask you a crazy question, Jamie. You have a favorite riff you've ever ripped off?
Just the famous ones, like Entombed. that was our big thing. Like that was like because when we got the tour, we were like, "Oh my God," because back then you would get an earworm, even if it wasn't like on purpose. You're jamming it, and then someone would be like, "Oh shit, we got to change it." But then you change it, so that it's not a direct riff.
Right.
Or not a direct rip, but when they gave us the cosign, that was like the ultimate honor. Rest in peace, LG. Just past 2 years since we lost LG.
That's right.
But that's got to be my favorite one. But also,
it's a good one.
Was Demon Puritan?
No, we did. I think like we would take like a snippet. Like just a turn, because I don't know if you ever heard the thing where we would say like the 203, or we would use the area code because I didn't know like, oh, this is C or this is D or this is F. I would just do the fret.
Okay. Yeah.
So I'm the same way. I say
like,
that.
So if a riff similar, I'm like, all right, change up the turn. You go, all right, give me like a 310. Give me a Maryland. Give me a Baltimore, or give me a Western Mass, like a 413.
Chicago's 312.
I've used an 818 a couple times.
Yeah,
the Kings of the Black Throne wrestling song is 818, and that's why I did that. I say that that myself and Connecticut residents have 0134 flowing through our veins. That's our blood type.
There you go. That's a great turn.
It's in yours. Let me tell you. You might have put it in mine personally.
Yeah,
It's a great one. I like a 7-1. I like a 715 or like a fucking a 705.
7-0 is that's maybe the greatest hack there ever was. 07.
Yeah.
They'll never know. You're duping them with that one. And that's the same thing.
What does your dad say?
When you go to the 6,
Colin, what's your dad saying?
my dad says 3 chords, great song. 2 chords, masterpiece.
Yes.
And
that's a great.
The
that's
O
a
and the
great.
7, 1 chord.
1 chord.
There's
the song.
Look at Orgasmatron.
Yeah, what is that? 1? What's the Blood for Blood song? Waiting for the Moment is 2 notes, I think. Other than the na, 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 na. It's just that's all.
That's a good one. When we toured with Damage Plan, we were in Des Moines, and Dime was like, "Man, fucking Perseverance is so hard." He's like, "Did y'all like, maybe like did you get that like from the End of Domination and what was like how did you fall on like that pattern?" And I was like, I was just trying to jam some shit like Helmet Meantime. And he was like, me too. And so like we both owed Helmet a sandwich. But there was a lot of bands that, there was even bands that had fallen onto that kind of like the Earth Crisis, especially. I had even said to Dime, like, you ever hear Earth Crisis Firestorm? It's basically like Rain and Blood, but just without the fucking lick. Like, and it's,
you put Dimebag Darrell onto Firestorm.
He hadn't heard them. But he had a great, like, he was the one who really like, made me think like, yeah, you got to have a playlist before you go out. Like, you really got to get pumped up. Like, I used to always get stressed out because I would be dealing with the guests, or I'd be dealing with like, all these dudes who showed up who want to be on the guest list and then they want to be in the dressing room. That was the first time where I was like, oh, wow, they have it locked down where they're just vibing so they could go out and have a great show. And I would go in there while they were vibing and they would have everything from like, because we really bonded on Halford Resurrection, because I got that fucking cassette single, and at Phoenix Records, shout out to Phoenix Records and Waterbury, I got that cassette single. And I was like, whoa, Halford is going hard. Like, that's what I'm talking about. Like, you should just go harder. You shouldn't try to go more commercial.
Always go harder.
Just go harder. It's a recipe for success. And Halford, and then I heard him playing Resurrection, and I bust in there. I'm like, oh my God, I fucking love this record. And he shows me the Halford tattoo. And and then we started talking about Prong. I was like, oh, snap your fingers, snap your neck. We talked about Helmet. We talked about obviously, like, Biohazard, Machine Head, like all the bands that they took on tour, Sepultura.
I love it. I love to hear that he loved all that shit.
I got something for you. When we toured with Cannibal Corpse, Hate Eternal was direct, and Eric Rutan of Morbid Angel, Hate Eternal, now Cannibal Corpse, and recorded all their fucking shit, said that when Perseverance came out, he listened to it every day for 2 years. Wow.
Dude, that's awesome. That's high praise coming from the master.
Straight up.
When we do the documentary, we got to get him in it. Him and Ben Falgout from Goathorn, Soylent Green. Like, Ben broke his legs and like thought he wasn't gonna walk again, and he said he listened to the record. I was like, dude, this is like, you got to say this in our documentary and make us look cool. I'm like, this is fucking awesome. But
Perseverance is basically auditory DDP yoga. It's the same thing.
That's awesome.
Dude,
that's the best thing I've ever heard.
Yeah, man, I fucking Hatebreed, man. Like, he was. That was what we bonded over, because like, us and Hate Eternal would share green rooms often on that tour, and it was just like, oh, you guys are into hardcore. Are you into Hatebreed? We were like, yeah, and that was where it was.
Dude, that's
every
great.
day
He's
for
the
2
best.
years.
We took Hate Eternal on Rise of Brutality. That was a big thing. We wanted to, because we had gotten away from that for a couple of years of trying to unite the scenes, but that was a lot of the bands that we had come up playing with. Like, we we would open for Suffocation, or we would play with Internal Bleeding, play with a lot of the death metal bands, and I would book a lot of the death metal shows too. So when we got to take out, we wanted to do a half hardcore, half death metal bill. So we did Terror, Madball, Cephalic Carnage, Hate Eternal, and that was a great tour. We had an amazing time. Yeah, Rutan is a legend. He's the best. I really hope that for next year, we tried really hard to get Hate Eternal on Milwaukee Metal Fest. And I have notes here. I have notes here. I got to plug that original Biohazard lineup. First show back Friday, May 26th, Milwaukee Metal Fest. Get your tickets. And
how about you want to send us like an ad copy thing, and I'll put it in with the ads in the middle of the episode.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. And we'll give you some tickets to give away and stuff too.
Oh, that'd be huge, dude. That crushes me. It's an hour and a half away from Chicago. Our dear friend, both of us, our dear friend is getting married that weekend.
Yeah.
Because we tried. I thought like Tim had reached out to your guys.
Yeah,
no, we didn't get anything. Probably would have missed the wedding. Sorry, Andrew. But I have a new segment I want to try today, Jamey, if that's okay with you.
Yeah.
This segment is called "How the Fuck Did You Write That?" You know the song Doomsayer?
Yes, there's a video.
How the fuck did you write that?
There's a video. You can pull it up and share it on YouTube.
About how you wrote Doomsayer?
Yep. It's I was jamming with Chris from Poison the Well. Because I said, dude, I got this fucking riff. And I remember I tried to show it to Sean, like maybe in the back lounge on that tour or so, like, and I had the pre-chorus. That was when we were like, we got to have a bridge. Like it was like, you can't just have riff, chorus, breakdown. You got to have different arrangements. You got to have a bridge, or you got to have a pre-chorus.
What was the riff you had that you started?
Let's see. Someone want to pull up the video.
I'll find it.
You could just do, I think you could just do Jasta Doomsayer. Someone sent me the video and I was like, who posted this? It might have been, it had to have been Chris from Poison the Well or someone who
Did you have the breakdown section first? Is that what you had? Because that's in my top 3. And we can segue into that for you. Top 3 spin kick riffs of all time is Doomsayer.
Man, what do I owe you for all this? I mean, this is
this is it. You did it. By coming on, this is it. This is enough.
Finding. Oh wait, Jamey Hatebreed writing and playing Doomsayer in 2002.
Yeah, there was like video. Can you share that video?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, we can. I'll pop it in now. Here it is. Here's Jamey writing Doomsayer.
And I'll put it in the chat for everybody too.
Yeah. Let's do double bass all the time. All right.
Wasn't that incredible? We enjoyed that so much watching that.
Dude, you know what's funny about that segment, Colin? The first note I have on this for this episode is the voice, comma, how. How do you, and Colin, I think you tweeted about it when you guys toured together. Jamey, you summon.
You summon the satisfaction
voice, like on a whim.
See, that tour, no, I was having a really rough time on that tour. I had gone and got scoped before that because I was on this like hot sauce kick for months. And whenever I used to do a thing where when I would get a check or I would get like something would happen, I would have a little money and it would like old me would come out and I would be like, okay, you got to get like, it's that feast or famine like mentality. It was like, oh, you got to like get fat. You got to eat. You got to like be ready for the winter because the famine is going to come and you want to be prepared for the famine. Now, it's not how you're supposed to live your life. You're not supposed to know. But right before that tour, I was freaking out, stressed out. And I was like having like, oh, I'm going to go to get scoped and they're going to say I got throat cancer or whatever. I was just freaking out. When I went there, the guy was like, yo, you have all this erosion. You got to stop eating all this spicy food. You got to like sleep on this pillow. You got to stop with the coffee. And I've never been so depressed in my life.
As that tour we did?
Trying to give up coffee right before that tour.
Oh, and I've heard it's brutal.
I won't do it.
I won't. I'll die.
I'd rather burn it out.
Oh, it is. It's really bad. I'm weaning myself down now, and it's really bad.
Why have a worse life?
No, but so when you guys, someone else had said to me on that tour, like, Maybe, was that with Code Orange?
Yeah, it was
The,
Dying
the,
Fetus.
the first one was Code Orange.
Maybe
we did two. We did Satisfaction first, and then it was Perseverance.
Right.
Okay, so someone else had said it to me like, "Oh, you switch your voice up for that." I go, "No, that's just compensating for trying to be able to do the hour plus set and going easier." And so that tone on Satisfaction is because I needed to get through the record. I only had X amount of days.
That's crazy.
To do it, and I didn't want to be totally blown out. So it's just like dialing it back a little bit. That's why I was blown away when people said, "Oh, I like the vocals better."
Dude, it never sounded like you were dialing it back. It sounded like you were doing Jasta.
Yeah.
Like 97 Jasta.
Wow.
Well,
Speaking of doing,
I think I got better on this last run because I stopped with the coffee at like 11. I stopped at like 3 cups, then nothing acidic.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah,
then I would do the arnica. I know people are tired of me talking about arnica, but shout out to Ann Wilson. She told me about the arnica. It just helps with the inflammation. What's kind of funny, and I don't know if this is still the case in hardcore, is like bands will do 15-minute sets, 20-minute sets, especially on festivals.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So when you're going hard for 15 minutes, that's easy.
Yeah.
But when you got to do a 75 minutes or 90 minutes, and you got to do it multiple nights in a row, and you're not 20 or you're not 25, you're not 30, you end up having to go to see an ENT, and they go, "Yo, what are you doing? Are you fucking crazy? Like, this is crazy." So right before that, they put me on the shit. I'm off of it now. I don't even want to say the name of it because I've heard it causes like people bile duct problems and stomach acid problems. And I had heard of people trying to get off this drug, and it's just I guess it's like a proton pump inhibitor or something, where it just stops the production of the acid and it throws your whole body chemistry off.
We don't need any of that.
I don't know.
Yeah, but actually Jesse from Killswitch was telling me about it. Like, oh my God, it's so getting off that and getting off the caffeine was a challenge, and I did everything. Like I did the licorice, I did all the natural shit. DGL is one you could look up that helps with acid reflux. And when we did this last tour, my voice was stronger because I didn't have the acid reflux. Now, since I've been home, I'm putting fucking Florida Frank shit on my shit. I'm putting fucking Doyle's fucking shit. Like I can't do that. I have to cut that off like a month or 2 before the tour.
Wow, I haven't tried Frank's, but Doyle's hot sauce is pretty good.
It's amazing.
It's pretty
amazing.
Good.
It's not even hot.
Love hot
it's
sauce,
just flavorful.
Jamie, that's your big vice, hot sauce?
No, I'm off of it. I just been hitting it lately. Frank's Red Hot, Louisiana. I don't have many in the house, but my daughter never liked anything spicy, and now she's liking spicy shit. So
you're fucked.
Dude, we sent a Few and the Proud tape demo to Stillborn. I just remembered, like 15 years ago.
Dude, and did it get unloaded in my crew? Can we plug my Depop right now? Because everything's getting unloaded.
Absolutely.
The whole storage room is getting unloaded. And actually, I want to shout out Bruce from Push Button Warfare and 100 Demons, because I was going to just
Bruce
show you.
LePage, friend of the show.
Friend of the show.
I want to shout out
friend
Bruce
of the
because
show.
I found a box of these. I'm sending Bruce half, and the other half will go up on the store.
The other half needs to go to me, whatever it is.
We're
half of which I will take.
We're literally unloading. So apologies to anybody who's sent me shit throughout the years. I can't pay for 5 storage rooms anymore.
Fuck.
We're unloaded, but I found 400 of these.
400?
Yep. Oh, I do. I found so much because some of the stuff has not seen the light of day since the old office in 2009. And then before we moved to the old office in 2009, we moved it from, I think, the one in 2004.
Wow. Shout out to Bruce. Bruce, we love you.
But I'm sending Bruce a box of these,
much.
and then the other ones will go up on my Depop. And
That's fucking awesome.
but yeah, any demos, a lot of the demos originally when we started on Gas Digital, we put them up, we digitized them. Like we put them in Pro Tools. We would do like little remixes or we would do mastering jobs, and we put them up as bonus content on Gas Digital.
Wow. Metal Blade once told me that they never signed a submitted demo ever.
Really? I found
Never
one,
once.
I found a demo from Cave In with like a nice letter. It was like, we liked the Integrity Hatebreed split. Check out our demo.
You could have had him. You could have had Caven. You could have had the best band ever.
Who knows if it would have got to that point, you know, because you got to offer the bands deals and stuff. But
that's right.
Do you want to do lightning round fan questions?
Yeah, let's do this real fast. We're gonna rip through these
quick.
questions from the HardLore universe to Jamey Jasta.
Let's do it.
I'll rip the Twitter. You rip the IG.
Twitter. I'll do Instagram. Yeah. Go for
Favorite venue in CT, past or present?
Oh, it's got to be the skate park.
Bristol.
Yeah, I guess it's done. It's fully done now. I think it's closed.
That's my birthplace. I don't know if you know that. Born in Bristol. Shout out to ESPN.
Favorite
venue in the world.
Favorite venue in the world?
Yeah.
Jeez, I don't know. I mean, a lot of bands like venues for stupid shit. Like we used to like the Norva just because it had a hot tub, and then we were like, why go in that hot tub? Like you just got fucking scabies or whatever. Like,
God,
or what?
Right.
You know what I mean? You're sitting in egg drop soup.
Oh God, I mean, yeah, that's disgusting. More ice pick ever on the horizon?
Yo, shout out to Danny D. We did remaster it. We found the drives. I thought we lost the masters when I lost my drives, and I had to send my drives to. Actually, I had to send it to San Fran to a forensic
detective.
Yeah, like a company that goes in and fixes the data. Wow. But Zeus actually found. Shout out to Zeus. And I just talked to Danny D about this. Zeus found the files, slapped a little remaster on it, and I think what we're gonna do is we'll put it up first on Bandcamp and shit, and do some merch.
People are begging for it to be on Spotify. I got a lot of that.
Yeah, we got to get that done. Now that everything from the old distribution deal is in the past, I think we're good to go. So,
all right.
Here's a good one. After touring for so long, what are some non-negotiable comforts that you won't tour without? Are there just any little things that you need on the rider or you need in your bag?
Just chapstick, but I just bring my own.
Yeah, but
that's the one.
Chapstick.
Have you ever tried to go without chapstick?
I don't use it.
Yeah, I've never used chapstick in my life.
Don't start because they try.
That's
to get
what I'm saying. It's a psyop.
Yeah, totally.
Same with deodorant. You start using deodorants and then you stank.
It's there's something wrong with this shit, and you're putting aluminum in your body and shit. But no, just a glass bottle water. I need the glass bottle water now. That's the thing.
Still or sparkling?
I'll do mostly still, but I fuck with some sparkling, especially like with a little drop of like lime juice, a little fucking cranberry in that ass.
We didn't ask him any food stuff.
I got a great one. What's your McDonald's order?
Fish fillet, extra tartar, or you slap another fucking slice on there. Slap another slice of cheese. Go double cheese, extra tartar. That way you know they got to make it fresh. I have had it where they just
oh my God,
rip it open.
You are an example of the Liv Moss HardLore mentality. we alter every order because we know that's just for us.
Mm-hmm. You will occasionally
do something to it.
Find that rip in the bun, and then you know they ripped open an old one. But it is what it is.
That's the risk. That's 1%, whatever.
Hit him with the Golden Arches question.
Your Hatebreed. What was that?
I did lie to Earth Crisis and say that the Shamrock Shakes were vegan. They're still mad about that. I guess they technically were because it's just like plastic and chemicals, but there was like fucking milk lecithin or some shit. Yeah, some shit in there.
Oh, that's good.
Shamrock Shake. It's March, so you got to say right now it's March. Fish fillet, Shamrock Shake, and you get the apple pie. You dip it in the Shamrock Shake.
You know what? That's the most original order we've had in quite some time.
Hit him with the question.
Your Hatebreed's flying down the road, right? You got all the time in the world. You're on tour. The bus is approaching one of them signs with all the food exits, you know? What do you see on that sign? No matter what it is, if it's a regional thing, it doesn't matter. That makes you go, hey, driver. Hey, Kiss. Tell them to pull the bus off the road. We got to eat here.
Oh, dude, I'm not picky. I'll do whatever. I love stopping for shitty snacks as it is.
What are you excited? What gets Jamey Jasta excited to eat?
I mean, I'll fuck up a Flying J like hot bar, like one of the wackest, like most dangerous ones. Like I'll fuck up churros at Love.
The taquitos?
Yeah. I'll fuck up a fucking cheese-filled like sausage at a fucking TA.
Dude.
So you'll eat like a 7-Eleven pizza?
I don't really like you know what I like at 7-Eleven is the
cheese
is like the fucking, what's the thing where it's like it's shit. I don't know
You
the
like the
name of
donut?
it. It's almost
donut.
no, it's almost like a Euro. It's almost like a Euro sausage. I don't know what the fuck. It's not a brat. It might be like a brat with some like.
Is it the cheese-filled sauce hot dog thing? I used to love a 7-Eleven hot dog.
7-Eleven in
Honestly?
Japan is one of the greatest experience
That's
anybody
so
can
Oh,
have.
dude, that Family Mart in Japan.
Yeah,
Better
AM, PM.
gyoza than 5-star
Gourmet
Japanese places
food.
here. Michelin star gyoza in the 7-Eleven. In
Dude,
Japan.
AM PM has like some sort of like ramen bar thing in there where if you zoom in, it's like you're in the never ending story when the horse goes down. It's like water and fucking grass is coming up and shit. It's
So your
amazing.
answer for the one place you would stop
That
is
you'd
Flying
be
J?
excited about.
You're
No,
like,
I
fuck
just-
yeah, yo, it's Flying J, go.
Well, like, listen, if you're down for the core, you know about like a split tape, split 7-inch, split
Yeah.
shirt. You know, you're down for the split. So like back when they split the fucking, when Pepsi bought up all the shit and they were like, fuck it, we're gonna fucking save on rent. We'll do a split restaurant.
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
You split up a fucking KFC.
KFC, Taco Bell.
Oh,
KFC, Taco
dude.
Bell, Pizza Hut combo. That's a great pick.
That's a good
Two fried breasts. Like we did that like multiple times. Like what was that thing called? It was like
Double
Double
down.
down. It's
double
back.
down.
It's back.
It's back right now.
Yeah,
So-
double down was evil. That you
We got
drink-
that going for us.
you were dehydrated for weeks after that.
Yeah, it'll take a couple of years off your life. This is a fun question. Who has done the best Hatebreed cover?
I don't know. There's been a lot of good ones recently. Escuela Grind did one I liked. They did Filth. You
Nice.
guys, you know, that was nice. You got the new generation, you know.
We did the
getting
whole
into
thing.
us.
You know, it's,
I mean, that's high. You know, there you go. That's a high praise. What about
and that was fun. Taylor recorded that for free just because he wanted to hear it.
It's so
What,
sick.
what a guy.
You
And
know?
just here's one, just so that you know, you don't have to answer. We already went over, but just so you know, we weren't making this up. Someone said stories from the Satisfaction record release. So
a real
that's like
thing.
a real. It's out there in the ether that, you know.
No,
Here's
and
one.
listen, I get it. Like if somebody's hero moment is another moment where somebody's been bullied and is a victim. And so
It's true.
who am I to take someone's experience away from them? Right? Like and somebody being in the wrong
Yeah.
in one story, someone's totally justified in another story. And back then, melees of the most insane fucking level would happen a lot, and you got to just kind of like become numb to it and not get in the middle of it and just move on to the next gig.
Yeah.
But for some people it's like a life-changing, life-defining event. For me, I had already been like fucking my cheek broken doing the door, you know, people trying to rob me of the door money. I've, you know, been hit in the head with a bat. Like I had like at that point, you know, I have scars all over my head from just being from 6th to 9th grade. Like, so at that point, being in a band and playing shows where, you know, somebody gets punched in the face, to me, it was like, hey, no big deal. Let's figure
It's
it
a
out.
show.
We got a
Well,
next
you
show
weren't
to
looking
do.
at that for what it actually was, where it was like, this moment is they're doing this for you. You did that.
It's
You
your
know?
fault.
You made that happen.
What do you mean? Like, well, no, but
That was for you. They said, Jamie, this is what we're doing this for you.
Jamie
So
Luck.
we love your album. I'm gonna beat the shit out of this guy because I love your album.
but
That's
if,
beautiful.
If someone was if someone was also in the wrong that was working at the venue, who believes that they're in the right,
I mean, Darth Vader is the hero in his own narrative. you know?
right? I mean, we went
we
through a
have
whole
a-
time where the villain was. I mean, people loved the villain. So
Yeah.
if
we have a
were-
thing. I'm so sorry.
I was just gonna say, if we or our friends or another band on the bill, if we were looked at as the villains because of that, Oh
There's
well.
nothing villainous.
Yeah,
you did
right.
you did great. You did a good job.
We have a thing real quick with that was our an episode a couple of weeks ago called the Master Killer tier list. We consider there's good albums, there's great albums, there's Master Killer, which is just a cut above.
You know, like albums like Thriller, Rain and Blood. Those are all Master
Satisfaction is the
Killer
Death of
tier.
Desire.
Yeah. Satisfaction.
Man,
What are your Master Killer tier records?
You know, I used to be so bummed. I would do the door. You know how many Marauder shows I booked with like 60 people, 40 people. And I would go,
That's why we're here doing the Lord's work.
I would go, this is like, have you heard the record? Like they got signed to Century Media. They toured with Fear Factory. We would put that on the flyer.
Yeah.
And
Toured with the Fear Factory?
like you would like, you know what, you give the list of shows to the radio station and be like, check this one out, like listen to this record. And then the radio station wouldn't play it. And you would go, what the fuck? The production's awesome. The songs are great.
It's
like,
the
what
best.
the fuck?
It's the best production ever.
That's
So
the,
I'm
some of
happy
the
that it-
criteria. Yeah.
The bottom line is that for every great record, the fan base is out there. Like we used to joke, like we would see when At the Gates eventually went on and they started the Haunted, we would see them at festivals and they would be like, Hatebreed opened for At the Gates. But at that show, I'm not kidding you, everybody went outside to smoke for At the Gates. And it was like, and I was like, this is insane. Like this is one of the greatest bands ever. They have one of the greatest, Slaughter of the Soul is one of the greatest metal records of all time.
Would you say it's Master Killer tier?
I would say you might have to do Slaughter of the Soul tier.
Wow.
It's a different
Because
that's a different show.
That's a whole other episode.
That's a whole different show.
You know, it's a different genre too. So I'll give you that. It's a different
But
genre.
that's okay.
No, we
But
do
genre
genre.
doesn't
Like
matter. We
Thriller
say-
is Master Killer.
say
Master Thriller. It's a
Thriller,
thing, you know?
Rumors, Master Killer.
But so we would see The Haunted, and we would talk about that show because it was Sick of It All, Napalm Death, At the Gates, Hatebreed, Sub-Zero. And maybe there was 150 people at the show. So people will post the flyer now and people are like, oh my God, I would kill to see the show. But when we would see The Haunted, we would joke around and be like, you know that like you guys literally started like an entire genre. Like, I'm not kidding you. Like right after you fucking left and you went back, like a whole scene popped up. We would tell them like Black Dahlia murder, fucking, I mean, like multiple scenes.
Yeah.
Metalcore, death metal, melodic death, mellow death, whatever you want to call it. I'm like,
whatever.
I'm like, these guys, now they know, obviously, but it was same with Refused. Like we played Hatebreed and Refused in Snapcase. We played, and people went outside for Refused, and they kind of sounded like more like Strife back then.
Right.
If you had told me back then, oh, they're going to go away for 20 years, come back and headline Coachella, I'd be like, you're fucking crazy.
Yeah, that
But
happened overnight.
That's the beauty of music, is like, it's going to find the audience, the people that want to hear it. It's going to find them. It might not be now. It might be 10 years from now. That's why when bands get discouraged, I'd be like, don't worry, don't sweat it. You could be At the Gates, or you could be Refused in fucking 20 years.
You say Master Killer's coming back. Don't worry, you'll be fine. Top 3 Hatebreed songs to play live.
You know what? It changes. I'll do every song. I like them all.
Can you confirm or deny something? Yeah. Do you guys have every song in the tank and you can just call them and okay? Because we've heard that.
You got most of them though. I've seen it happen. I've
know
seen
what's
your
weird?
verbal cues on stage where Frank's on his toes. He don't know what's happening next, and he's just like okay. And then it's there's this. You don't have to speak. The band just knows.
We have a lot, but you know what's funny is like now, like there was an album we did and it wasn't really well received, and now it's catching on, and people want to hear it. Divinity of Purpose. I think we're getting that record back soon. Like I think I don't know for sure, but maybe for Europe or something, like one of the licenses like reverts back to us. But like that's one that now I would remix, remaster, or I would put out like the other versions of the songs. Like people will hit us up and be like, oh, why don't you play Time to Murder It, or why don't you play Dead Man Breathing, or why don't you play and these are songs that at the time, some places they just didn't react.
Yeah.
But
Why
now
don't you
people
play... Sorry, I keep doing this to you. I'm so sorry.
no
Dead
go
Man
for it.
Breathing is probably my number one Hatebreed track, like post self-titled.
Really?
I love that song.
See, that song's grown on people.
Big time. No, I grew on me right away, but I hear it from your mind because we're the same person.
I've seen Hatebreed a bunch. I've never seen you guys play Spitting Venom. It's one of my favorite.
Okay, yeah,
songs.
that could come back. We've done it recently.
Song rips.
That you know what, people like self-titled now too. Like people ask us to play Hands of a Dying Man. They ask us to play Merciless Tide. There's some cuts. You know that's we made the mistake on that record and didn't like. I call it the Monty Connor trick. Like Monty, shout out to Monty. He said you always go with the Trojan Horse song. You go with the fast, heavy song first. We should have did that on self-titled. We should have led with Merciless Tide. It's John Frank's fault. We led with In Ashes, which became a mild hit, but it was too different at the time. But
Merciless Tide or Pollution of the Soul were, to me, you buried them. They were way down there. It's like track 11 and 13 or something, right?
we should have. When we went with Merciless Tide as the second track or whatever, then people were like, "Oh, okay, maybe the record will be all right." But you know, you live and you learn. There's no blueprint. You just gotta. I think it'll find its audience eventually. Someone will find the songs and they'll go, "That's my jam." So it's good not to take any of this shit personal. Like when people don't like it.
Absolutely.
2 questions from Quincy Punks. When are you playing Brockton?
Shout out to Brockton.
Yeah. And so there's a theme on this show that we ask every
Let's close
guest.
with this.
Yeah. I think we don't want to take up any more of your time. It's been 3 hours.
We'll close with this. This is a good one.
This is something we ask everybody at this point. The question is, who do you do? Who does Jamey do? Who were the front men you saw? 3 or 4 guys where you were like, that's me. I'm going to do that. Where you subconsciously bring in what they're doing on stage, what they're doing with their voices into what you're doing.
Well, a buddy of mine, John, we call him Pugs. Shout out to Pugs. He had a tape of Cro-Mags at City Gardens where John has like the fresh chest tattoos. Like they're still covered up in bandages. And he's doing flips off the monitors. And it's a high stage at City Gardens. We actually got to play there eventually. And then I remember getting like a Circus magazine or Metal Maniacs or whatever and seeing a picture of the tattoos, like without the bandages on his chest. And then I went and I got whatever records, and then you could buy like the bootleg tapes. You know, and trade the VHS tapes. And I always thought he had great energy, but it's different because it's different beats. It's different. Like he has a different rhythm than I do. But I also thought there was times where I could feel like he was looking directly at like certain people in the crowd. And I thought, okay, he's good at like connecting with people. There's other times where you know, frontman was just kind of like talking outwardly to the crowd. There's a famous tape of Freddie from Madball going like, "Don't you punch me in the dick, motherfucker, I'll punch you in the," or whatever. And he would go right to the front and command the people and look people dead in the eye. And because that's how it was. Like a lot of times when you go to towns and you're playing this heavy, hard music, you have people that want to test you, you have people that want to size you up. And so I think him, Roger too, like Roger, when he had the long hair and he was going nuts.
Very sick.
So hard. But he didn't so much as like engage with people in the crowd as Freddie did. I think Freddie kind of took that to a better, he's really engaging and just, you know, just hard, just a menacing, but still like you wanted to be his friend, like hard, but you knew, like, oh, I got to go talk to this dude after the show. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, you like, and especially like with John, I think because of that, I could never be that athletic. Like I remember trying to dive off the monitor and I just fell like flat on my face. Like the crowd didn't even catch me. So I was like, all right, I'm not going to do any John Joseph's, you know, City Gardens moves, but those 3,
it's a good 3.
I mean, I love that singer in the biggest hardcore band ever references the other biggest hardcore bands.
To like, I mean,
influential hardcore. Like,
well, how what's the percentage of Hatebreed fans that have never heard another hardcore band? You know.
Well, also, if you think about the frontmen that I really like in metal, a lot of them play instruments, so it's a different way of connecting.
Yeah.
Maybe they'll
Yeah,
move
yeah.
from the mic stand and connect. Like, but if you've ever seen them without a guitar, like if you've ever seen Tom Araya without a bass, it's kind of like funny. If you ever
weird.
see Rob Flynn, Rob can do it because he's a
Dude, they don't know what to do.
yeah, they don't know
Yeah.
what to do.
But Rob is
Wow,
great.
that's a great-
I always thought Rob was great with the lead-ins to the moshes and really commanding the crowd, especially if you watch in Biohazard too. If you watch Dynamo, but Madball played Dynamo. That's a great video to watch because you're really seeing the genesis of the crowd involvement.
That's when
You
they
know,
fuck
on
up
that type of level.
the Crucified cover, and Freddie's really pissed, and he says, "Come see me after the fucking show." And it's very like, oh,
Those are great. 3 great picks.
Max is great
dude.
Max sure is great.
because you could see him like channeling, like, and just vibing. It's different when you're when you're playing the guitar, but Burton from Fear Factory was always good.
Max has one of my favorite mosh calls of all time.
Un
they
dos
play-
tres quat.
Yeah, I mean that's incredible.
Yeah.
But it's from the Alive. It's like a deluxe. I don't know if it's from Roots or something, but there's a live recording, and he says, "Sao Paulo, show the world."
Wow,
That's the mosh call.
that's hard.
New Haven show the world. You know what I'm saying? Connecticut shows the world all the time, right, Jamie?
Pizza. You want to
one-
have pizza beef before we go? You want to?
We could talk about what's your are you Sally's or Frank Pepe's?
Sally's all the way. My uncle Mike made the sauce. My uncle Mike's worked there for 45 years.
I'm with you, man.
Shit.
When I said Sally's, Jay was like, "Wow, a bit of a contrarian." I was like, "Am I?" I don't
You know
think I
what's
am.
up.
I think
You know
I
what's
think
up.
Sally is number one. Let me one last thing. I'm sorry to keep you. I think 3 hardest pits all time. Crowbar to Carry the Load. Suffocation Thrones of Blood. Hatebreed Doomsayer. Give me your top 3.
I'm gonna go Suffocation, Liege of Inveracity.
Great pick.
I'm gonna go Sepultura, Dead Embryonic Cells. Actually,
Unbelievable.
if you name a better 3-piece out of the gate than Arise, Dead Embryonic Cells, and fucking Desperate Cry. Desperate Cry is an ass beater. I just had Mickey D on my show, and Mickey D calls them smokers. Desperate Cry is a smoker. I mean, you want to talk about I love a 2-word chorus or a 2-word shout.
Yeah.
But yeah, but Disciple, God Hates Us All.
Dude,
I mean,
so that came up on the bad, the bad record quote, heavy quote bad, because I don't think it's bad. That came up in
Diabolus
that.
is the one.
I don't love either one, but
we
Disciple
said
is the
that
one where you're
Disciple-
like, there's nothing you can say. It's
Dude,
perfect.
Disciple has a Hatebreed breakdown.
It does.
Like,
Yeah,
in
no,
my,
and-
objectively hearing it as an outsider, I'm like, what?
Oh, people were going crazy with that when it first came out. New Faith,
Okay.
they said sounded like Before Dishonor or something. I think it's New Faith, one of them. Where he's like, "Holy man, up in the," and they were like, "Yo, Slayer owes you a sandwich." I mean, that owes you a sandwich has been around for, forever.
So you're saying that Disciple is number 3 pit part of all time?
I mean, I saw people that whole tour, like that really brought back the heat. Like they brought back the mosh on that.
But that's you gotta remove yourself from what you've seen. What is Jamey Jasta fan of spin kick music? That you're saying you're gonna go on record on HardLore to the world. Disciple number 3. Disciple intro.
Oh,
right?
dude. I mean, no. I mean, you could go anything off of the fucking first Biohazard. You could go Hold My Own. You could go anything off of Set It Off, or you could go anything off of Hold It Down.
Hold It Down is flawless.
First 3 on Hold It Down is ass beater delight.
What have I been saying?
Yeah.
I mean, you
Can't
could
Stop,
move.
Can't
Won't
Stop,
Stop
Won't Stop.
is the best hardcore song. Best
Yeah.
modern hardcore song. It's perfect.
I think that might have been my number one on the hardest hardcore countdown in top 50 or whatever. That might have been my number one.
Was it really?
It's
How do you
Yeah.
feel about this? I'm going to ask you a Connecticut question on the way out here. I think Dead at Birth is the best hardcore song of the 2000s.
See,
2000 to 2010.
that's a good one. See, you know what? I'm too close to it because I was like, to me, when I put out Last Days, I thought this is going to be the biggest band. Like, I really thought like this is going to be the one. And then I had people like, once you realize there's a whole world outside of the, like the, and then,
Connecticut.
and it was, I also realized this when we did Another Voice with Agnostic Front, like when I got them on Headbangers Ball, like you realize there's millions of people who they do not feel the same ways. And they will go out of their way to tell you this. I remember the MySpace, but with Death Threat, people said like he sounded British. I never understood that. I'm like,
You know what's crazy is somebody lately that I know was like, yo, is that the band with the guy that sounds Jamaican? And I was like, what the fuck are you talking about?
but to
And
me,
then I saw
okay,
it
if he
again.
sounded British, like we love The Business, like we love, there's
what's the
like
problem?
tons of,
Yeah.
like, yeah. I always thought Death Threat should have been the biggest band. You know, Aaron's like a heartthrob. Like I thought like, oh, this is going to be the band that's like going to be the bridge between H2O and Hatebreed. Like somehow you find the middle ground.
It's Youth of Today and Hatebreed combined.
Or
into
yeah,
this
you know what I
perfect-
mean?
Yeah. I'm with you, man.
Jamie,
I
who does-
love hearing you say that.
Who does the backup vocals on Before Dishonor on Satisfaction?
That's Matt. That's Matty Matt.
Okay.
Shout out to Matty Matt.
Hard to find on the internet, some of these little details, you know?
Wow. This was a masterful episode of HardLore, Jamie. Thank you so much.
Thank you so
joining
much
us.
for having me, guys. And
Kidding me?
and I hope you know, I'll put in the word with D. You got to get OGD. He's original
We're
PMA.
getting him.
He had a PMA book.
We've got it in. His daughter is a friend of the show. Shy.
Shout
So
out to
she's-
Shy.
She's
Very
working.
legitimate.
He would
working
tell
on
me
that.
like he would hit me up. He'd be like, "Do you know Death Before Dishonor?"
His favorite band.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and he goes,
that's right.
"That's my favorite band."
We got it.
Yeah,
Unreal.
We got
Can't
See,
wait to
it
talk to
fine.
D.
The audience
Yeah,
will be
yeah.
found. Like you put it out there, and someone is gonna hear it, and it's gonna be there, and they could tell people and whatever. Like he told me, "Ignite Darkest Days" is one of the greatest records of all time, and I'm like, you know what, you might be right. And I went back and revisited the record. I'm like, this is a fucking unbelievable
Dude.
record.
Bleeding is a perfect song.
It's a hit. It's a
Straight up.
smash hit. It's a
Smash
hit
hit.
is a hit.
It's a hit.
Science. It's science. Jamie.
Ramones Pet Cemetery.
Oh, dude.
Masterpiece,
all
dude.
of Brain Drain is actually fucking
Brain-
awesome. But
I
I
believe
went-
in miracles.
I went to New York City. I went to EMI. Had all the meetings, and I went to Toad's place, and I saw Ramones in a van outside, and I go, how is this possible that Ramones is in a van? And when I got to a meeting, they said, so what do you think? Like what? And I go, we want to be like the Ramones of fucking heavy music, like just solid. Like you just got hits, but you're not, you're not
Yeah.
like the biggest band in the world, but your shirts are everywhere. And he goes, the Ramones, this guy literally looked at me in the meeting. I won't say what his name was, but he looked at me in the meeting and goes, they didn't even sound scan 20,000 records. At that time, they hadn't sound scanned 20,000 records yet on Brain Drain. I think maybe even after like 30 years, I think maybe it's at like 30,000 or 35,000 sound scans. Someone should
crime.
check that.
It's their best record.
that is a crime.
Crime.
And so, when Satisfaction got to like 250,000 records, and now it's way past that, but at that time on SoundScan, re-entering the Billboard charts,
Yeah.
that's when the weight of it hit me. Like, you sold like almost 100
10 times Brain
or
Drain.
whatever. Like
Yeah.
the fucking,
Yeah.
it was crazy. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. 10 times. I'm Brian Williams in the shit out of it.
You did great. Don't worry. We'll do the math for you.
But
it's
that's
all
why.
good.
But now everyone will find, hopefully people will continue to find Brain Drain, and they'll realize the weight and the heaviness of I don't want to be buried in a pet cemetery because I don't want to live
I
again.
want to live my life again.
I mean, how sad is that?
Oh,
It's amazing.
very
It's a
sad.
crusher, but it's a hit.
It's a hit. Great movie. Great song.
Great movie, great song.
Episode of HardLore.
Go listen to Monstrance Clock. You like Ghost?
Yeah.
You like Monstrance Clock?
The world is on fire. Is it that one?
No, it's the sound of the Monstrance Clock.
Yeah.
I had, that's an earworm that I'm not kidding you. That fucked me up for like 9 months. I had to go see a professional. Come
Because you were just.
together.
Oh, yeah.
Together as
one.
And then
For Lucifer's son.
Yeah.
I went to take a nap at Bloodstock. I woke up during the nap and I could hear that through the wall of the bus. And I went out into the crowd, into Gen Pop to watch it. First, I went on stage and I was like, wait, is there no amps going? Like, what's going on? Like, then I went out to the crowd and I was like, oh, okay. Yeah, it's just all through the PA. But I was like, whoa. And that shit, that's like a Pet Cemetery for me.
That blew your mind.
When I think of Pet Cemetery, that's a brainworm for me. That's sticks in my goddamn head.
Dude,
There's
I
a
played that on the
brainworm
bus
recently.
over and over.
I got a brainworm right now. It's a TikTok of the millennial gray bathroom in the Mexican restaurant. You seen that one?
Yeah, of course.
That one is. I'll send it to you, Jamie.
Is it going to ruin my life for 9 months?
to keep it away.
It might, because you're going to be like, this is so stupid. And then an hour later, you're going to be like, there's a millennial gray bathroom in the Mexican restaurant.
Shit.
It'll get you, man. You're fucked.
There's a millennial gray-looking restroom inside the Mexican restaurant.
But thank you. This is, I mean, I could go another hour easily, but we,
well, thank
got
you
shit to
guys.
Thank you
Milwaukee
so
Metal
much.
Fest, May 26th to 27th, 28th, and Jasta for All, hopefully be out at the end of May. Go to martyrstore.net, get the Corpse Grinder, check out the Ripper. And yeah, that's it. And then hopefully we'll see everybody next year on the Hatebreed 30th anniversary tour.
Unbelievable. Thank you so much, Jamie. 30 fucking years of the best hardcore band ever.
And I'm not going to load up on fucking hot sauce and bullshit beforehand. I'm going to really hit it hard. So,
No, I think you should do whatever you need to do, man.
I'm not going to load up on pizza before that one. I got to really taper
I'll
it
meet
off.
you at Sally's before the tour.
We'll get one
it
in. I
started
just
real
went there
good.
with Ricky Rackman a few months back, and it was
Nice.
It's amazing. Shout out to Ricky Rackman.
Man. Yeah.
A couple of presenting legends.
Yeah.
You know?
Get him on there.
Love to get him on.
Ricky's down for the core, dude. He's got
You
some
guys
hard
paved
lore.
the way for this. Like,
Straight
you
up.
got the pods set up, but like Headbangers Ball, man, that's what we're all doing. Headbangers Ball,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
Dude, you got to get him on the show. He'd
be
be
sick.
great.
Let's get him. Let's get it. Let's get into the future. Let's
All
Hatebreed 30 years. Jamey Jasta.
Thank you guys. Oh yeah,
HardLore.
Furnace Fest. I got to plug that, right? OG said at Furnace Fest. There was other stuff I was supposed to plug. I'm forgetting.
Is
but-
that what you're doing? What are you doing at Furnace Fest?
Yeah, we're doing Furnace Fest. There was another one I forget. I was
We'll be
supposed
there.
to. Oh, Incarceration.
The tat show.
That's in Ohio, July. So that's
Cleveland,
another
Ohio.
one
Is it
we
in
can
Cleveland?
announce.
All right. Huge.
Get your
Check out
tickets.
everything Jamie's got going up. Martyr Store. Stillborn.
.net.
We got Jamie on HardLore. We gotta do this once a month.
We
I think.
didn't even talk about Headbangers Ball or nothing.
Yeah, we'll get there.
We'll
We'll
get
Next
get
time.
there on part 2. Jamie, thank you so much. This was perfect.
Anytime. Thank you guys. I appreciate it.
All right. We will talk to you soon. Thank you all so much for watching. Bye.
Take care, fellas.